Catfish. Catfish 3? The intel isn't wrong? Fu Hang is really Catfish 3? Then who is Lana? No, Lana is definitely a catfish. That godlike hacking skill, those moves that took out 6 well-trained bodyguards in an instant, she's definitely not a normal person. So, they're all catfish? Catfish 4. The one who blew up the research institute, killed all the researchers, destroyed Apocalypse, and then escaped. Catfish 4. So, Catfish 4 sent me to stir up trouble with Catfish 3? Damn it. You monsters are fighting amongst yourselves. Why drag me into it? I'm logistics. I'm the support staff who provides for you. Jack finally started to panic. His eyes flickered as he looked at Fu Hang. That calm demeanor, in Jack's eyes now, was like a demon from the abyss. In an instant, the files on Catfish 1 and 2's massacres flashed through his mind. Catfish 4's threats echoed in his ears. And at the end of his line of sight sat a demon shrouded in darkness. Catfish 3. Fu Hang had finished his tea, elegantly set down the cup, and calmly looked over. Perhaps because Fu Hang was looking, Mark realized Fu Hang might have something to ask, so he slowly released Jack. Let me explain. This is a misunderstanding. Jack got up, trembling, but before he could finish his sentence, Mark landed an uppercut. Jack immediately clutched his stomach and doubled over. He felt like his gallbladder had burst, a bitter taste filling his mouth. Misunderstanding? You traitor! Mark yanked him up by his bent waist, and the Desert Eagle in Mark's hand was once again pressed against his head. And this time, Mark even racked the slide. Meeting those savage eyes again, Jack was speechless. Traitor? In a way, he had indeed betrayed the organization. Catfish 3 was the one truly cooperating with the organization, while Catfish 4 had defected and was on the organization's kill list. But just today, under duress from Catfish 4, he had given them a massive order and had already begun to set things in motion. This was aiding the enemy. Seeing the guilt in Jack's eyes, Mark's anger flared up again. It was as if he was back on that nightmarish border, watching his comrades get their heads blown off one by one. He released Jack's collar, then landed another vicious hook. Jack doubled over like a shrimp again. He felt like his spleen might have ruptured, and his stomach churned violently. He instinctively tried to dodge backward, but Mark grabbed him by the collar, lifted him high, and slammed him hard onto the conference table. Jack was dazed from the impact, his vision blurry. In his stupor, his eyes rolled back, but due to the angle, he happened to see that distant demon stand up. He just stepped onto the table, walking towards Jack one step at a time on the long, narrow conference table, as if taking a stroll. The overhead lights flickered like vertical pupils opening on the demon's back. He finally saw those eyes up close, devoid of any emotion, like gazing into an abyss. He seemed to understand that gaze. It was the look of a god regarding an ant. No anger, no pity, only indifference to life. That's right, this was a genetically modified human. Strictly speaking, not human. They lacked human emotions. They were created for destruction, for slaughter. Don't kill me. I can give you money. When on the brink of death, people instinctively grasp at straws. And Jack Solomon, what he had most to offer was money. But as soon as the words left his mouth, he realized how ridiculous he sounded. Sure enough, the demon standing over him, looking down coldly, finally showed a flicker of emotion in his eyes, mockery and disdain. Since Fu Hang was Catfish 3, would Fu Hang be sure money? Jack suddenly fell into despair. He couldn't think of anything else that could save his life. He regretted his recklessness in making this trip. A life of ease had made him arrogant. He was supposed to be the puppet master behind the scenes. How could he have been so arrogant as to personally meet a catfish? Yes, with his status, both overt and covert, nothing should happen to him in China. China wouldn't allow anything to happen to him within its borders. But this was a catfish. They were created with the purpose of destroying the world. They knew very well how to disrupt order. If given enough support and time, they could even overthrow a government. So, would he worry about the consequences of killing him in China? Perhaps causing his death in China, thereby inciting local unrest, was precisely his goal. Because only in chaos would he have enough room to grow. Jack despaired, tears welling up in his flickering eyes. He could already imagine himself dying here, and Catfish 4, because he hadn't fulfilled his promise, would start hunting down everyone related to him across the globe. Fu Hang slowly squatted down. Only then did Jack see that Fu Hang was still holding that exquisite white porcelain teapot. Fu Hang still said nothing, just looked at Jack indifferently, slowly raised the teapot over Jack's head, and gradually tilted it. He controlled it with such precision that the tea inside dripped out, drop by drop, landing accurately on Jack's forehead, splashing tiny droplets. One drop, another drop. Another drop. These falling drops of tea were like boulders, carrying a demonic roar, striking at Jack's soul. Before this pot of tea is empty, give me what I want. A voice, cold as if synthetically generated, sounded from above him. Only then did Jack realize this was the first thing Fu Hang had said since entering the room. What I want. What did he want? What do I still have? Suddenly, his heart trembled. The list? Besides being the president of Solomon's Asia-Pacific branch, he had another identity, head of intelligence for the Asia-Pacific region. This intelligence head, unlike frontline agents, served as a central liaison. The reason he became head of intelligence was the same reason he became president of the Asia-Pacific region. These roles were mutually protective and constraining. Catfish wanted the list? Yes, he wanted to develop his own forces. He needed support. Money he already had. What he needed were intelligence personnel. And he clearly didn't want to continue cooperating with the organization. So he wanted the list. He wanted to go independent. Give it to him. Jack's mind raced, his persona finally shifting from president to intelligence head. Catfish 3's original mission was to disrupt order in this region. If Catfish grew stronger, wouldn't that align with the original intention? But that list, Jack knew he couldn't just fob him off with a few nobodies. Even if he managed to fool him now, once Catfish learned the truth and turned his wrath on him or the organization, wouldn't he be bringing disaster upon himself? Could he escape Catfish's pursuit? But that list, it represented decades of the organization's planning. Jack was still agonizing over his decision when, suddenly, he realized the drops hitting his forehead had stopped. His eyes widened in alarm. He saw that the exquisite white porcelain teapot was no longer pouring tea. A single amber droplet quivered at the spout. The last drop? In his peripheral vision, Jack saw Mark's savage face, an expression of eager, fulfilled anticipation. I'll give it to you. I'll give you the list. Jack blurted out instinctively. Fu Hang, however, showed no reaction. He merely tilted his head, his gaze fixed intently on the teapot. A trembling droplet clung stubbornly to the spout, refusing to fall. It's over. Despair flickered in Jack's eyes. Don't tell me I'm out of time. There's still one drop left. Any normal person would be satisfied hearing I'm willing to hand over the list. But this wasn't a person, was he? You couldn't analyze him with human logic. Jack's mouth hung open, his tongue flicking out, his eyes glued to that single drop of water, like a man dying of thirst in the desert, waiting for the last dewdrop of dawn. Plink! The droplet landed on his forehead. Jack almost cheered. He eagerly looked at Fu Hang, only to see a hint of disappointment in Fu Hang's eyes. Mark was also disappointed, feeling like he'd lost the chance to deal with the traitor himself. Fu Hang, teapot in hand, turned and once again strolled leisurely across the conference table towards the far end. Mark released Jack. Another Ghost Shadow operative pushed Jack down in front of the table, placing a blank sheet of paper and a pen before him. Jack, with hardly a moment's hesitation, snatched the fountain pen and began to write rapidly. The names and identities he could recall all belonged to his subordinates. Due to secrecy protocols, intelligence personnel often operated on a point-to-point contact basis. Therefore, as a regional head, what he controlled were naturally the second-tier managers. Thus, there weren't many names. Jack put down the pen and looked hesitantly at Fu Hang opposite him. But Fu Hang didn't even glance at him, elegantly brewing another pot of tea and sipping it occasionally. Mark snatched the paper, carefully folded it in half without daring to look at it himself, then respectfully walked over to Fu Hang and presented it with both hands. He had learned this gesture of presenting things with both hands from the young Eastern man who delivered their supplies. Every time that young man gave him something, he did it this way, and it made Mark feel comfortable, respected. Fu Hang didn't take the paper, merely glancing indifferently at the table. Mark understood and carefully placed it in front of Fu Hang. Sir, we want to take revenge ourselves. Mark didn't leave. Instead, he suddenly straightened up, looking at Fu Hang with determination. These words made Fu Hang pause slightly. For a moment, the Grandmaster almost lost his composure. Has this fool really been completely duped? So, you thought the list I wanted was a list of traitors? Fu Hang lifted his gaze slightly, looking at Mark with profound meaning. Please, sir, give us a chance. Mark pleaded earnestly again. Remember, I don't keep useless people around me, Fu Hang said coldly, a flicker of mockery in his eyes. Mark froze, shame coloring his face. But in the next instant, he saw Fu Hang take out his phone, snap a photo of the list, and then hand the list to him. Mark was instantly overjoyed. This was a chance, a golden opportunity. If he could complete this task successfully, he would have the chance to follow the Sir. In their hearts, they already revered Fu Hang as a god. He was no longer a being of their dimension. If they could follow such a sir, perhaps one day they'd appear in textbooks or the Book of Revelation. Don't concern yourselves with those within the country's borders, Fu Hang said icily, casually sending the photo to Qin Xiao. Damn, this list had all sorts of nationalities, covering the entire Asia-Pacific region. With this, you guys will have to fully support my movie, right? While I become Best Actor, there'll be a big reward for you too. Rest assured, sir, we will definitely complete the mission. Mark snapped to attention and gave a military salute. Side quest. Life of a Best Actor challenge complete. Reward being drawn. Reward. Master-level photography skill. A cold, mechanical voice sounded in his mind simultaneously. A slight smile touched Fu Hang's lips. Time elapsed, 17 minutes and 35 seconds. This smile from Fu Hang, however, was misinterpreted by Mark as encouragement. His eyes immediately reddened, and he clutched the list tightly in his hand. Jack, opposite them, was dumbfounded. What revenge? What within the borders and outside the borders? What are you people doing? Weren't we talking about expanding influence? Mark, what are you doing? You're an agent trained by the organization. Jack's face was a mask of confusion and terror. He felt he might have made a grave mistake. Fu Hang said no more. Mark, understanding, skillfully removed the silver needles from the chests of several bodyguards and respectfully returned them. The other two spirited ghost shadow operatives, after a moment's hesitation, silently untied the bodyguards, then quietly bowed to Fu Hang before exiting the conference room without a sound. The bodyguards regained consciousness quickly. Almost as soon as the conference room door closed, they groggily woke up. Opening their eyes, they found the scene unchanged. Their boss was seated at the head of the table, and Fu Hang was still at the far end. As their emotions and thoughts gradually reconnected to the moments before they lost consciousness, the three bodyguards who had charged once before instinctively got up and rushed towards Fu Hang again. Before Jack could even shout a warning, a cold glint shot in through the open window. The fountain pen in front of Jack shattered, leaving a smoking hole in the smooth tabletop. A sniper? The bodyguards instinctively converged, forcing Jack under the table. Bastards! What are you doing? Get out! Jack roared, furious and terrified. Only then did he remember that among the two Ghost Shadow teams dispatched earlier, there had been an exceptionally skilled sniper whose body had not been found at the border. The bodyguards looked at each other in dismay, but Jack was already cursing incoherently. After enduring a torrent of abuse, the bodyguards were finally driven out of the conference room by Jack. Fu Hang hadn't told him to leave, so there must be something else. Now we can talk business. Fu Hang revealed a gentle, yet unsettling smile that made Jack's skin crawl. He was clearly smiling gently. Yes, we can talk business. Jack was ecstatic. His life was saved, it seemed. The entire Solomon family should be proud of his humiliation today. He had traded one man's disgrace for the continuation of the entire family. However, you'll have to discuss it with my assistant. I don't really understand these things, Fu Hang said suddenly with a charming smile. Jack's smile froze on his face. Why did those words sound so familiar? So, the CEO of Solomon Asia Pacific's branch comes all the way to Cathay, only to negotiate with an assistant? Before Jack could puzzle it over, the conference room door was pushed open again, and the little assistant Miss Catfish had been so concerned about walked in, carrying a large stack of documents. She first glanced at Solomon from a distance, bowed politely in greeting, then skipped over to Fu Hang with her files and sat down beside him. Are you two done talking? Qin Yuchu asked Fu Hang with an innocent expression. You two can discuss the important matters now. Fu Hang took out a white porcelain cup and poured a drink for Qin Yuchu. Qin Yuchu accepted the teacup, then glanced suspiciously at Jack. Seeing Solomon's empty tabletop, she shot Fu Hang a reproachful look, then scampered over to Jack with the teacup and respectfully offered it to him. Mr. Jack, please have some tea. Qin Yuchu smiled sweetly, still speaking in a foreign language. Jack was on the verge of tears. He'd been in China for an entire day, and finally, he had something hot to drink. And someone had actually remembered he was a foreigner. He looked at Qin Yuchu with gratitude, and for a moment, he even thought of Helena, the daughter who might not even be his. Helena's smile was just as beautiful. Such a gentle and lovely girl, as kind as an angel. No wonder even a demon-like figure such as Catfish doted on her. Jack held the teacup, but cautiously glanced at Fu Hang. Only when he saw no objection did he carefully take a sip. Good tea. It was just that when he drank it, his forehead throbbed a little. Satisfied, Jack put down his teacup. His gaze towards Qin Yuchu became even friendlier. Shall we start talking about work then? Qin Yuchu tilted her head, glanced left and right, and asked tentatively. Air, I need to state up front, regarding the rubber industry orders, I've already given them all to Hung Yu. Jack snapped back to reality and hurriedly explained. That man over there, he was a catfish too, wasn't he? If number 3 also wanted the rubber orders, how could he possibly explain it to number 4? Although this number 3 seemed a bit more cold-blooded, it had taken ages to scrub off that hexagram on his forehead. We don't want your orders, you see. Qin Yuchu blinked her large eyes and said sweetly. Don't want orders? Jack was stunned. What kind of business were they talking about then? This is a cooperation agreement, drafted by our company. Please take a look. Qin Yuchu picked up the documents she had brought in, trotted across the long conference table, and respectfully handed them to Jack with both hands. Jack was momentarily captivated by her nimble figure. She truly was an angelic girl. He opened the cooperation agreement, and his eyes instantly froze. If there's anything you don't understand, mister, Jack, you can ask me, Qin Yuchu said, looking at him expectantly. You drafted this agreement? Jack asked subconsciously. So, you don't want orders, you want Solomon's market share in the Asia-Pacific region. Jack's eyes widened bit by bit. Qin Yuchu seemed startled by Jack's dramatic reaction. She timidly glanced back at Fu Hang, her eyes pleading. The look was unmistakable. Didn't you tell me to be bolder? Fu Hang put down his teacup and narrowed his eyes at Jack. A chill shot down Jack's spine. The fear of being dominated by a demon washed over him once more. The southern and western regions are fine, but the central and northern ones really won't work. Solomon isn't something I alone can decide, Jack hurriedly explained. But I only wanted the southern region initially. Well then, the south and west it is. I'll revise the agreement later. Qin Yuchu grinned, revealing 8 perfectly aligned teeth. Jack's fists slowly clenched. An angel, my foot. Demons. You're all demons. Anyone connected to catfish is completely unhinged. Jack Solomon had arrived quietly, but when he left, Yuanbua Trading grandly sent Lu Junkai, a representative from Project Team 2, to personally see him off. Lu Junkai felt he was being given an important assignment. The CEO of Solomon, no less. Qin Yuchu, his junior, was creating an opportunity for him. Unfortunately, he heard their own damn CEO was in the company today, so Qin Yuchu must be tied up. He had to seize this chance. If he could win Solomon's appreciation, maybe Qin Yuchu wouldn't have to work so hard. They could achieve their dreams sooner. He had to help his junior escape her struggles. Carrying this heavy burden, Lu Junkai spoke words of thanks with enthusiasm and his barely passable English. When the elevator reached the first floor, he even enthusiastically grabbed Jack Solomon's hand, wanting a photo with him. Jack Solomon truly couldn't figure out what this fellow was all about, but with a friendly smile, he obliged all his requests. He even added him on WeChat. It was only when Lu Junkai, with an arm around Solomon's shoulder, walked into the main entrance of Yuanbua Trading that Solomon suddenly realized, what am I even doing here? My car is in the underground garage. Then, he was stunned by the scene before him. When he had arrived at Hung Yu in the morning, they had taken it very seriously, arranging a large number of staff to wait at the entrance. The scene had been quite grand, but compared to what was in front of him now, Jack Solomon was momentarily speechless. At the entrance of Yuanbua Trading, flowers were being waved, banners fluttered, and a long red carpet was even laid out on the ground. In the distance, there was a sea of people, a cacophony of gongs and drums, and all sorts of cameras with long and short lenses flashed. If his name hadn't been on the unfurled banner, he would have thought he'd stumbled into a pop star's concert. Forgive us for not welcoming you sooner. Forgive us. A resonant voice called out from the distance, and a line of smiling middle-aged men in business jackets approached. A beautiful translator stood in the middle of the crowd, providing sweet and gentle simultaneous translation. This group was the official reception delegation from Hansheng. The man leading them was the director of Hansheng's Investment Promotion Bureau. Faced with such a scene, Jack was naturally familiar with the drill, but a slight suspicion arose in his mind. Before leaving, Fu Hang's casual remark, "Have fun," did it refer to this? Had catfish number 3 infiltrated even the political sphere? Otherwise, why wouldn't the official reception team meet him at the airport? Why come to the ground floor of Yuanbua Trading? After some pleasantries, Jack and his bodyguards were enthusiastically invited onto a minibus, beginning Jack Solomon's true luxury tour of China. It also allowed Jack Solomon to truly understand why this great nation was called the land of etiquette. However, Lu Junkai, mixed in the crowd, was completely baffled because the reception team's staff had clearly included him. Before getting on the bus, He had guiltily tried to decline, saying he was from Yuanbua, not the Solomon Group. But the staff were exceptionally enthusiastic, exclaiming that one more person just means one more pair of chopsticks, and pulled him onto the bus directly. Before the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 28th floor, Fu Hang stepped into his own CEO office for the first time. But the moment he entered, he instinctively glanced at the office opposite, labeled HR Manager. The door was open, and a middle-aged woman wearing glasses sat inside. Fu Hang glanced over, then silently closed his own office door. Qin Yuchu stood quietly by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the bustling crowd below. What exactly did you talk to him about? He agreed to such conditions. Qin Yuchu asked curiously, without turning around. Just consider it, as me having saved his entire family. Fu Hang slowly hugged Yuchu from behind, feeling her familiar warmth and scent. Fu Hang frowned. The shampoo scent was different. Had she changed shampoos? Having been burned before, Fu Hang was now extra sensitive to this. It's a pity you also got orders, Qin Yuchu suddenly said fiercely. Otherwise, in less than 3 years, I could have crushed them. It's all right. I'll help you, Fu Hang said, a little guiltily, pushing the shampoo matter to the back of his mind. Qin Yuchu snorted softly. I'll be very busy recently. Fu Hang hugged her a little tighter. I need to shoot a movie on a tight schedule. About 2 months. Fu Hang felt he needed to explain beforehand. After all, there were 3 clients at the film set. You're going to shoot a movie? As a director? Qin Yuchu leaned her head back against Fu Hang's shoulder. Turning her head, her warm breath tickled his face. I'll be the lead actor, playing a villain. How bad a villain? Qin Yuchu suddenly smiled. Guess. Fu Hang kissed her. Before the French windows, Yuchu stood with her back to him, head tilted to the side, as Fu Hang embraced her from behind. The two of them kissed quietly, savoring this moment of peace. Their emotions intertwined and merged, yet they remained restrained, not letting the spacious office become a scene of steamy intimacy. Are you really going to be in a movie? Starring in it yourself? After a long moment, their lips parted. Qin Yuchu, feeling weak and pliant, leaned against Fu Hang's chest, her body devoid of any strength. She simply let Fu Hang hold her. The Crow. The Crow? You mean like the movie with the hero? I watched that when I was a kid. Qin Yuchu's eyes sparkled, her long eyelashes like 2 little brushes. Fu Hang lowered his head, gently nuzzling Yuchu's head with his cheek. Yeah, it was a movie from a few years ago. Back then, you were just a kid. Perhaps because Her Majesty the Empress was so extraordinarily formidable, Fu Hang would often inadvertently forget that this young woman was merely a sophomore in college, just turned 20. Don't tell me Heavenly King Lu will be there too? Yuchu suddenly turned around, wrapping her arms around Fu Hang's neck, her face full of eager anticipation. Of course. He is the Crow. Wow, can you give me his autograph then? No problem. Heavenly King Lu is said to be a man of great character and virtue, very approachable. I'll have a word with him, maybe even get him to hand copy the 3-character classic for you. Qin Yuchu burst into peals of laughter, her body shaking like a flower in the wind. By the way, that Chairman Lu, he didn't do anything, did he? Fu Hang had excellent eyesight. Through the French windows, he spotted Lu Junkai mingling in the crowd below. He instinctively sniffed the air. The fresh, fragrant scent of shampoo filled his nostrils. As if compelled by an unseen force, he lowered his head and kissed Yuchu's neck. The scent of her body wash was different too. He might be quite capable. I'm planning to send him to an overseas post after the new year. Qin Yuchu grinned again, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Capable people should be nurtured well. Has Yuanbua considered expanding its business to South Africa? Qin Yuchu giggled again. Her trembling figure made her ample bosom heave like tumultuous waves. After a night of reflection, the metaphorical glass of baijiu she had toasted with from afar had gradually cooled in Fu Wanqing's heart. Things had come to this point. Dwelling on it further was pointless. After waking up today, however, images of those stunningly beautiful faces kept replaying in her mind. The youthful and lovely Yuchu, the alluring and passionate Qingluan, the imposing and dominant Wei Yang, the wild and unrestrained Yanin. That Yanin, who dressed rather unconventionally for a proper young lady, licking Fu Hang like that. She had actually seen it. Good heavens! Her son, who was so quiet, awkward, reserved, and introverted as a child. How'd he turned into this? Could it be true that men really do turn bad when they get rich? And that big celebrity. When she came to offer a toast, Fu Wanqing hadn't looked up, but she had clearly heard Qin Yuchu say, My man can't drink. I'll drink for him. It was the first time she'd heard Yuchu speak in such a tone. Clearly, Yuchu must have sensed something. So, that celebrity was also involved with her son? Fu Wanqing felt extremely anxious. In her entire life, the thing she hated most was scumbag men. She had suffered greatly because of one and wasted half her life as a result. Heredity? Fu Wanqing couldn't help but think of that lame man again. Turning her head, Fu Wanqing looked at the man who, despite having a bad back, rolled up his sleeves and insisted on mopping the floor every day. Lao Wang's excuse left her speechless, yet it warmed her heart. Lao Wang's exact words were, "I got used to mopping on deck. Now, if I don't mop for a day, I feel uncomfortable all over." Mopping the floor was his way of reminiscing about and paying tribute to his past life at sea. "Why don't you take a break? I'm going grocery shopping." Fu Wanqing sighed softly and picked up her coat. She planned to call Fu Hang home today and have a serious talk with him after dinner. Groceries? Let me go. Lao Wang instantly dropped the mop and reached for the reusable shopping bag in Fu Wanqing's hand. But Fu Wanqing didn't say a word, just looked at him quietly. "Well, I'll finish mopping then." Lao Wang chuckled awkwardly, wringing his apron with both hands. Even though they had been married for several years, he still couldn't look Fu Wanqing directly in the eyes. Whenever Fu Wanqing looked at him, his heart, which remained calm even in the face of raging storms, would pound uncontrollably. "Sit down and rest for a bit." Fu Wanqing gave a gentle smile and turned to leave. "Be careful then, okay? Did you bring your phone?" "Got it." Fu Wanqing shot him a playful, reproachful glance. While waiting for the elevator, Fu Wanqing sighed softly. She asked for nothing more. Having such a man by her side for the rest of her life, those missing 20 years didn't seem so regrettable anymore. Stepping into the elevator, a rare trace of tenderness appeared on Fu Wanqing's face. The elevator doors opened, but it hadn't reached the ground floor yet. It stopped on the 6th floor. There was no one outside. Fu Wanqing frowned slightly, peeked her head out, and the smile on her face turned into stunned disbelief. "Qingluan." Fu Wanqing's eyes widened, because outside the elevator, squatting on the floor and organizing a garbage bag, was none other than Shen Qingluan, the very person who had been on her mind all day. Shen Qingluan was dressed casually at home, a stark contrast to the elegant and fashionable appearance Fu Wanqing had seen yesterday. Now, she looked like a sweet, unassuming girl next door. She wore loose-fitting, goose-down straight-leg pants, fluffy white slippers on her feet, a khaki-colored tight wool undershirt, an apron around her chest, and plastic gloves on her hands. Her long, wavy hair was neatly tied up in a bun at the back of her head, but a few strands of her bangs were damp with perspiration on her forehead. "Auntie, I'm so sorry. I'll be done in just a moment." Shen Qingluan looked up, a flash of surprise in her eyes, quickly followed by apology. She was trying to tie a garbage bag, but the ill-fitting plastic gloves made her fingers clumsy, and she hadn't managed to tie it after several attempts. Fu Wanqing opened her mouth but couldn't utter a word because behind Shen Qingluan, she saw the open door of apartment 609. You live here." Fu Wanqing stepped out of the elevator and squatted down to help. "Oh my, auntie, don't get your hands dirty." Shen Qingluan quickly tried to stop her, pulling the garbage bag behind her. But Fu Wanqing's hand had already grabbed a corner of the bag. With the tug, the bag tore open, spilling its contents all over the floor. "I'm so sorry, so sorry. I didn't mean to." "Auntie, are your hands okay?" Shen Qingluan was flustered and anxious. "It's all right. Annie will help you clean up." Fu Wanqing's attention, however, wasn't on the garbage at all. She was still craning her neck, looking into apartment 609. The layout was the same as 809 and 909, but it seemed more exquisitely decorated. Shen Qingluan, however, quickly turned, trotted into her apartment, and came back out with a broom and dustpan. Fu Wanqing reached out to take them, but Shen Qingluan stubbornly insisted on doing it herself. Fu Wanqing couldn't change her mind, so she stood quietly to the side, waiting. The suspicion on her face grew more and more complex. "Shen Qingluan lives here, right below Qin Yuchu?" "Fu Hang, what on earth are you trying to do? Your ex-girlfriend and current girlfriend in the same building? Don't tell me you bought all these apartments? Are you playing such elaborate games?" "I actually just moved here," Shen Qingluan explained in a calm voice, lowering her head as if sensing Fu Wanqing's astonishment. "A friend from overseas just came back to the country and happens to live around here. She's not familiar with the place and wanted me to keep her company. So I moved in." Fu Wanqing sighed inwardly. "A friend from overseas? What a clumsy excuse. You're the CEO of a publicly listed company. You could live anywhere. Why here?" Sigh. This child. She really can't forget Fu Hang, can she? What's to be done? Auntie, are you going grocery shopping? Please go ahead, I can manage on my own. Shen Qingluan wiped the sweat from her forehead, noticing the reusable bag in Fu Wanqing's hand, and thoughtfully reminded her. It's all right, give the trash to me, Auntie. I'm going downstairs anyway. A complex expression flickered across Fu Wanqing's face as she reached for the trash bag in Shen Qingluan's hand. Then thank you, Auntie. Unexpectedly, Shen Qingluan showed no pretense, treating her as if she were her own elder relative. It's no trouble at all. Fu Wanqing forced a smile, her heart growing even more bitter. Could she really stop her from living here? She wasn't that overbearing. She only thought she needed to have a serious talk with Fu Hang soon. Outsiders couldn't meddle in this. It would only make things worse, possibly even backfire. Eating out tonight? Fu Wanqing pressed the elevator button again, only to hear a clear, unfamiliar voice from behind. Surprised, Fu Wanqing turned her head and saw the door to room 610 open, revealing a blonde foreign girl. This girl was naturally beautiful. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call her stunningly gorgeous. Even in ordinary cartoon pajamas, she was breathtaking. Yes, let's eat out. The kitchen is still empty. I'll go shopping for supplies tomorrow when I have time and cook for you then. Shen Qingluan replied gently. Oh, Annie, this is my friend, Lana Katerina. This is Fu Hang's mother. Shen Qingluan introduced them. Hello, Fu Wanqing said instinctively. Lana's Mandarin was very standard, and she was speaking Chinese. Fu Wanqing wasn't like a typical housewife who'd get nervous seeing a foreigner. After all, she had lived abroad for many years. It's great to meet you. I'm Fu Hang's friend too, Lana said enthusiastically, stepping out of the room and giving Fu Wanqing a big hug. Despite the cultural difference and a slight discomfort, Fu Wanqing maintained her smile. So, she really does have a foreign friend? And you're keeping her company by buying an apartment right across from hers? Fu Wanqing once again experienced the way wealthy people did things. Although she now had 100 million in her bank account, decades of ingrained values made her subconsciously feel that money should be saved for her son's marriage, even if that money came from her son. Come over to our place when you have time, Fu Wanqing said as the elevator arrived, and she stepped inside. Definitely, Lana and Shen Qingluan said in unison. The elevator doors closed. Fu Wanqing stared blankly at her reflection in the mirror. I was just being polite. Isn't that what everyone says? What face do you think Fu Hang will make when he finds out we're both living here? Lana leaned close to Shen Qingluan, a mischievous grin on her face. She had been ecstatic when she learned Shen Qingluan was buying an apartment here. Fu Hang's women were indeed no pushovers. See, didn't this just open up new possibilities? She immediately bought one too. If nothing else, this complex was safe. Was this what they called Great Hermit's Hide in the city? It looked like an ordinary residential complex, but there was a guard post every few steps, and even the security guards at the gate were not ordinary people. Fu Hang was certainly very careful about his family's safety. Have you finished cleaning? Shen Qingluan didn't answer the question, instead glancing towards room 610. Why do it yourself? Aren't there maids? No, they call it housekeeping here, Lana said, raising her eyebrows curiously. Get changed. We're going out to eat. Shen Qingluan rolled her eyes. Wait, you insisted on doing all this yourself. It wasn't just for that scene earlier, was it? Lana's eyes widened in astonishment. Shen Qingluan tilted her head slightly, gave Lana a meaningful look, and turned to enter her apartment. Lana slowly shook her head, clicking her tongue in amazement. Things are getting more and more interesting. Downstairs at the small supermarket, watching the woman come out with a trash bag, another small stool appeared at the entrance. The lady boss and her son sat side by side, each holding a handful of sunflower seeds. He's incredible. I should worship him as a god. The young man's eyes shone with admiration. This is nothing yet. The lady boss twitched her lips like an old fan who had finished the series finale but was rewatching it with someone new. Honestly, after reading his profile, I used to just admire him. And now, complete and utter worship. In a lightless secret room, 3 old men sat facing each other again. Is this it? Chen Xiao looked completely stunned, staring at the photo displayed on his phone, finding it unacceptable. Nearly 20 additional teams had been deployed, with over a dozen departments coordinating extensively, all geared up for an earth-shattering battle of wits and courage against the captain. Wasn't this supposed to be a pinnacle showdown of deceit and all-out tactics? It's over just like that? The list was obtained? Old Duan pursed his lips, gazing up at the chandelier at a 45-degree angle, his face also full of melancholy, but the man in the trench coat holding a thermos knew this old scoundrel was suppressing a laugh. This kid is truly unorthodox, but him sending those 4 idiots to stir up trouble abroad at the end, isn't that a bit inappropriate? Chen Xiao grimaced, his voice hoarse, but his eyes grew serious. Hey, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you want. What idiots? What's stirring up trouble? That's slander. That's defamation. That's a baseless rumor. An irresponsible, unfounded speculation. Old Duan suddenly became agitated, pointing at Chen Xiao's nose and scolding him. Chen Xiao was taken aback. He turned to look at the man in the trench coat, only to find him calmly sipping wolfberry soup, as if he hadn't heard their conversation. Chen Xiao's mind reeled as he finally understood. Damn it, you guys who've lurked in the shadows for so long really are devious. I, a righteous and kind police officer living in the sunlight, almost couldn't keep up with your thinking. That's right. What idiots? What's stirring up trouble? We don't know anything about that. Are there such idiots? Never seen them. The man in the trench coat put down his thermos, subtly glancing at old Duan. He had already sent the list back. Arrangements would be made soon for those who couldn't be allowed to die. Those 4 idiots wouldn't act faster than them. As for those who could die, it would depend on their luck. Anyway, if they messed up and got exposed, it would be Ghost Shadow's doing. What did it have to do with them? What about the captain then? Let him fully experience our traditional culture. We can't have people saying we lack courtesy, the man in the trench coat sneered. Just keep him well-fed and comfortable like this. He'll probably realize something's wrong soon, won't he? Chen Xiao frowned, pondering. Once Ghost Shadow makes their move, he'll grow to like this kind of life, old Duan said with a meaningful smile. When the news accidentally leaks, your defection as the esteemed Asia-Pacific Regional Director will be something you can't deny, no matter how hard you try. Chen Xiao's mouth twitched as he looked at the 2 men, completely in disbelief. This is ridiculous. That's just plain daylight robbery. With a little maneuvering, Jack Solomon could end up living out his retirement in China. The man in the trench coat still said nothing, simply cradling his thermos. Even in an internal meeting like this, his status meant he couldn't speak too freely. Lao Duan could talk, but he couldn't. That kid's pulled off another major win. So, how do you plan to handle it? Chen Xiao pulled a slip of paper from his pocket. It was something Fang Tiandai from Weiyang Entertainment had just handed to him. What does he want now? Lao Duan asked suspiciously, taking the paper. He wants to make a new movie. Said he's aiming to submit it for the post-New Year Film Festival. And this time, he's acting in it himself. He's acting? Lao Duan looked up from the document, which only listed logistical support requests. No details about the film itself. What genre? Trenchcoat man frowned slightly. Acting it himself? Going public? Was this another layer of cover? The crow, Chen Xiao replied. Both Lao Duan and the man in the trench coat fell silent for a moment. At their age, of course they remembered the classic cop and criminal film that once took the country by storm. Given the circumstances, we should cooperate. Use your contacts to push it through, Trenchcoat Man said quietly as he set down his thermos and glanced at Lao Duan. I can't appear directly, but I'll compile part of Fu Hang's file and forward it to the appropriate people. Chen Xiao shrugged and tucked the slip of paper away. This didn't even count as doing someone a favor. Higher-ups were probably racking their brains over what kind of reward to offer that kid. The problem was, he didn't seem to lack anything. From now on, assign extra security wherever possible. I'll make arrangements on my end too, if something really goes wrong at a time like this. With that kid's temper, he'll lose his mind, Trenchcoat Man said, taking a long breath of the stale, smoky air in the room. Then he turned back to Chen Xiao. Maybe it was time to pick up smoking after all. Experts said secondhand smoke was dangerous. I never thought I'd end up working security, Chen Xiao muttered, looking dejected. Oh, count your blessings. If you're not up for it, I'll put you on the next train to the capital. Lao Duan snapped, his smoking picking up pace. That bastard had already benefited a ton from his own son. With this latest move, Chen Xiao's resume was about to gain a few more glowing pages. But Chen Xiao acted like he hadn't heard a thing, staring solemnly at the ashtray on the table as if strategizing the next phase of their security plans. Trenchcoat Man knew better. He was holding back a laugh. Fu Wanqing still didn't manage to get Fu Hang to come over for dinner. The fact that Shen Qingluan was now living downstairs had shaken her more than she cared to admit. In this moment, the usually composed mother found herself at a complete loss. She was desperate to talk to Fu Hang, but instinctively felt this conversation couldn't happen in this apartment complex. Better to make a trip to Yinshu now, one when Yu Chu wasn't home. After dinner, still restless, Fu Wanqing carefully ladled out the health tonic she'd simmered all day, packed it into a thermal container, and finally stepped out after mentally preparing herself. She couldn't get past the knot in her heart. At the very least, she needed to let Yuchu know that Shen Qingluan was living downstairs. With them so close, running into each other was inevitable. A little warning would make it easier for Yuchu to accept, or at the very least, she wouldn't be caught completely off guard like Fu Wanqing had been. In Fu Wanqing's view, Qingluan was a decent girl and clearly cared about her son. Maybe Fu Hang even felt guilty toward her. But that was between her son and Shen Qingluan. Yuchu was family now. If her son couldn't get his priorities straight, then as his mother, she absolutely had to. The elevator doors slid open, and Fu Wanqing blinked in surprise. Inside stood a dainty young woman, bright-eyed and sweet-faced. Polite, elegant, a complete picture of charm. A movie star? A flicker of surprise and delight flashed in Fu Wanqing's eyes. Hello, ma'am. Zhuge Yun greeted her with a respectful bow. Standing this close, in such a tight space, to someone she'd only ever seen on TV, Fu Wanqing was caught off guard all over again, especially because this celebrity seemed so respectful. Ma'am, when was the last time anyone had called her that? And you are? Fu Wanqing trailed off, suddenly on alert as she noticed something odd. She hadn't pressed any elevator buttons yet, but the light for the 9th floor was already lit. So this actress was going to the 9th floor? To see Fu Hang? Oh no. Because of her son, she now had an automatic reaction when seeing pretty young women. Her mind would start racing. I'm going to visit Yuchu. Do you live here too, ma'am? Zhuge Yun responded with the poise of someone doing a press interview, smiling sweetly, with perfect manners. You're visiting Yuchu? Fu Wanqing's eyes narrowed with suspicion, glancing down at the cake box in Zhuge Yun's hands. Apologies, I should have come greet you first, ma'am, Zhuge Yun said, bowing her head slightly, full of sincere apology. She looked like an employee trying to make a good impression on their boss. Fu Wanqing was speechless. Were all these girls really getting along this well? Come to think of it, aside from that Li Weiyang girl, things hadn't exactly been tense at that dinner the other day. Unavoidably, her mind flashed to those short dramas targeted at male audiences she'd been doom-scrolling recently. Was her son building a harem? The elevator soon reached the 9th floor. But Zhuge Yun didn't move. She held the door open respectfully, waiting for Fu Wanqing to step out first. Now Fu Wanqing felt stuck. Should she go or not? She braced herself and stepped out, timidly ringing the doorbell. You came here alone? No assistance or anything. Fu Wanqing made small talk just to ease the awkwardness. On TV, celebrities always had an entourage. I live right downstairs, Unit 209. I hope we'll get along well, ma'am, Zhuge Yun said with a small step back and a formal nod. You live in 209? A familiar headache crept into Fu Wanqing's temples. Yes, it was arranged by the company. I think the place used to belong to Mr. Duan. Mr. Duan, that was his apartment. The world spun around her. Auntie. The door opened. Qin Yuchu blinked in surprise at the two figures standing outside. Oh, Yuchu, I made you some soup. Fu Wanqing handed over the container, still dazed. This, Zhuge Yun said, she came to visit you. With Zhuge Yun present, she couldn't bring up Shen Qingluan, living downstairs. And now another girl was on the 2nd floor? In Duan's old place? Fu Wanqing's mind was a mess. Thank you, Auntie, Yuchu said gently, sensing that something was off as she carefully took the container, glancing suspiciously at Zhuge Yun. Drink it while it's hot. I won't bother you too, Fu Wanqing mumbled, eager to retreat. She needed to get back and collect her thoughts. Her brain was now filled with scenes from those ridiculous web dramas. What was going on with the world these days? Even idol dramas didn't dare write plots like this before. She didn't even wait for Yuchu to respond, just turned and stepped into the elevator. Yuchu held the container, but her eyes were locked on Zhuge Yun with suspicion. The moment she saw Zhuge Yun, a strange discomfort had washed over her, especially in her chest, an odd tightness that made her feel slightly breathless. What was she doing here? Instinctively, Yuchu wanted to throw her out on the spot. The scene from yesterday still haunted her. Utter humiliation. Humiliation of the highest order. There's got to be more to this actress, Zhuge Yun, and Fu Hang than meets the eye. Otherwise, Fu Hang wouldn't have poured so much money into her. The crucial point was, she actually dared to take liberties with me in public? What in the world? This is intolerable. To be honest, that black tiger snatches the heart move truly shattered her ladyship, the Empress's immovable wisdom king composure. It was obvious Zhuge Yun had been brought here by Fu Wanqing. So, what was mother-in-law trying to imply? Was she hinting at something? Or did she want me to accept her? For us to get along harmoniously? The moment Zhuge Yun saw Qin Yuchu, however, her gaze lost focus again. A floral plaid, plush pajama set? So cute. Turns out, even this style of pajamas could look like a catsuit on her. The way she wore her hair up looked so prim and proper, just like a virtuous wife and loving mother. Her neck was so fair, and the line of her collarbones so smooth. How did she manage to look both innocent and alluring? She was practically the pinnacle of the innocent yet seductive aesthetic. Yes. Qin Yuchu met the strange gaze, a shiver running down her spine as her expression instantly turned cold. That gaze was so odd. She looked like an innocent and demure girl, so why was she looking at her in such a lewd way? Sister Yuchu, hello, I've come to apologize. Zhuge Yun snapped back to reality, holding the cake box above her head with both hands, her attitude extremely sincere. But as she bowed her head, her gaze fell upon Qin Yuchu's feet. Fluffy bunny slippers. Love them, love them. Her ankles were so delicate. I wonder if her toes are like mine. Zhuge Yun's toes curled instantly, the soles of her feet feeling hot. She wanted to take off her shoes and socks. But Qin Yuchu didn't speak, nor did she take the cake box. Instead, she watched the other woman warily, still trying to analyze her mother-in-law's intentions. Yesterday, mother-in-law was sitting right there. She must have seen it, right? So embarrassing. For the first time, the top student was flustered. This problem was beyond the syllabus. About yesterday, I'm truly sorry. I drank too much. It was completely. I couldn't help myself. I wasn't in control. Zhuge Yun felt her breathing quicken, a tingly, numbing sensation like the first time she acted opposite Sister Yanin. Worthy of being the #1 boss lady. Just her gaze alone was enough to make me breathless. What exactly is your relationship with Fu Hang? Qin Yuchu impatiently cut her off. Are those shameless words something a young girl, like you should be saying to another young girl? We don't have. Zhuge Yun instinctively wanted to deny it, but under Qin Yuchu's cold gaze, she suddenly found she couldn't lie. The boss. He likes to look at my feet. As if possessed, Zhuge Yun blurted out the truth. A flicker of confusion appeared in Qin Yuchu's eyes. She subconsciously glanced down, only to see Zhuge Yun by the door, actually starting to take off her shoes, as if wanting to show her feet. All right, I accept your apology. Work hard, sing well, act well. Qin Yuchu decisively took the cake from Zhuge Yun, but only pinched the packaging carefully with 2 fingers, as if afraid of touching something unclean. Thank you for your understanding, Sister Yuchu. You're so considerate. Zhuge Yun beamed with joy. Well, I'm about to go to bed, so I won't keep you for tea. Please see yourself out. Qin Yuchu watched her warily, silently issuing an order to leave. To be honest, this was the first time praise had made her skin crawl. Considerate? Those words suddenly felt tainted, but the top student remained restrained. She still hadn't figured out her mother-in-law's intentions. Okay, I won't disturb Sister Yuchu's rest then. I live downstairs, so you can call me anytime if you need anything. Can we exchange contact information? Zhuge Yun smiled candidly, expectantly taking out her phone. You live downstairs? Qin Yuchu's voice suddenly rose, her bright eyes and pearly teeth looking murderous at that moment. Yes, I just moved in. The company arranged it. I'm in 209. Please take care of me in the future. Zhuge Yun bowed politely again. If it weren't for that lewd gaze, this gesture would actually have been quite endearing. Qin Yuchu stared at her silently for a long time before giving her phone number. Arranged by the company? Was it Li Weiyang or Fu Hang? Xia Xiaofeng wouldn't have the guts, nor would he be that stupid. The ever-composed top student, Qin Yuchu, felt her composure shatter for the first time. She couldn't see the solution, nor could she find a way to crack the problem. But the confusion in the top student's heart gradually faded, replaced by a thirst for new knowledge, just like when she first got a new exercise book. I can't solve it only because I haven't encountered this type of problem before. It doesn't mean I can't solve it. A top student never fears a challenge. The next day, Fu Hang, as usual, left the residential complex in his luxury motorcade, escorted by Baldy Long. Meanwhile, at the complex's security gate, security guard Little Lu, who had just been transferred from the underground garage, stared dumbfounded at the departing motorcade, scared speechless. This was the guy he'd pinned down in the bushes? Oh my God, I actually wasn't fired? Speaking of which, if they didn't fire me, could it be they have other motives? Just now, when a motorcade passed, the look Baldy Long gave him sent shivers down his spine. Maybe I should just resign proactively. I heard a security guard quit to do stand-up comedy and became incredibly famous, not only marrying a wife but also buying a house in the capital. Little Lou silently looked at the new face standing beside him, feeling that the competition in the security guard profession was getting fiercer. This new face and the one who had replaced him in the garage both exuded professionalism from head to toe, like graduate students from Security University. Speaking of which, to do stand-up comedy, what do you need to prepare first? That monkey guy seemed to have started with his girlfriend's encouragement. Should I find a girlfriend first? Security guard Little Lou's mind started buzzing with ideas. When Fu Hang arrived at Weiyang Entertainment, Xia Xiaofeng and Fang Tiandai were already waiting at the entrance. He once again turned, speechless, to look at Baldy Long, who was a step behind him. What the hell did you study in college? Just now. As he was getting into the car, he clearly heard Baldy Long make a call. The boss is in the car. ETA, 17 minutes. Then, when he got out of the car, he saw Xia Xiaofeng and Fang Tiandai. Is this something a loan-sharking thug can pull off? Full marks for administrative skills. Okay? What kind of talent have you awakened? Originally, because Baldy Long had failed in his duties several times, acting as a bodyguard yet positioning himself in front of Fu Hang. Fu Hang had been planning to replace him. But now, Fu Hang couldn't bear to. Is everyone here? Fu Hang didn't stop walking, heading straight through the main entrance. They're all in the conference room, but President Li has gone abroad. Xia Xiaofeng hesitated for a moment before speaking softly. Weiyang went abroad? Fu Hang stopped in his tracks. Ganlu Milk Tea has already expanded its operations overseas. Fu Hang's expression turned peculiar. He still hadn't seen the business plan provided by the system. He truly had no idea what Ganlu Milk Tea's next moves would be. Anyway, during this period, branches had opened up all over the country. Coupled with Zhuge Yun's explosive popularity and endorsements, its online exposure was terrifyingly high. Especially the gold medal composer Qing He had become famous, but his songs were incredibly hard to come by in the industry. And Zhuge Yun, due to filming schedule conflicts, had temporarily paused her Queen of Singers challenge after 3 rounds. This actually left many eager kings and queens of singers quite disappointed. Because word from Weiyang Entertainment was that Qing He did not accept song requests from artists not affiliated with their company. And in the King of Singers challenge, winning just 1 round meant getting a tailor-made song, an incredibly tempting offer. The current situation was such that whoever was challenged was almost guaranteed favorable exposure. After all, the hype of the challenge was undeniable. Everyone in this business lived off traffic and knew this well. So at this time, some quick-witted companies or singers had set their sights on Ganlu Milk Tea's theme songs. With the aggressive expansion of the branches, the speed at which theme songs were being released also shocked people in the industry. This Qing He, did he have a large stockpile? Or could he truly produce hit songs so effortlessly? Theme songs plus Zhuge Yun's custom-made ones. He must have produced nearly 100 songs by now, right? Look at any major chart. Weiyang Entertainment, or rather, the lyricist-composer Qing He, wasn't just topping the charts. He was dominating them completely. Even obscure internet celebrities like Lei Lu and Xiao Qi were propelled to new heights by these hit songs. It was foreseeable that from this moment on, the era of Qing He had arrived. At this point, singers desperate for a hit song had all set their sights on Sweet Do Milk Tea's theme song. No one felt it was beneath them to endorse a milk tea brand anymore. In fact, they weren't even endorsing the brand itself, just one of its shops. Regarding this, Fu Hang didn't insist on any principle that only artists from his own company could sing the theme song. After all, how many artists did Weiyang Entertainment even have? How many singers? However, quite a few artists, or rather, newcomers, did come to Weiyang Entertainment seeking contracts. But Fu Hang subtly hinted to Xia Xiaofeng, "We only do quality. We'd rather have nothing than something substandard." The meaning was clear. They weren't hiring. Was he kidding? He wasn't really trying to run an entertainment company, was he? What would he do with so many people? Recruit pretty girls? Don't be ridiculous. One Xiao Qi nearly became a soul-draining commitment. He still didn't know how to handle Zhuge Yun and Ying Yanan. Recruit pretty boys? Hell no. Who would he be trying to disgust by bringing them in? Hadn't their popularity tanked enough already? Besides, wasn't Weiyang Entertainment already full of tough guys? It was practically overflowing with them, okay? In short, Weiyang Entertainment and Sweet Do Milk Tea were developing with such ferocious momentum that calling it unstoppable was no exaggeration. President Li isn't away on business. Word is she's dealing with some personal matters. When she left, she said, It might be a few months." Xia Xiaofeng subtly glanced at Fu Hang and answered honestly. "Personal matters? A few months?" Fu Hang's eyes gradually widened. "Are you avoiding me again? Did my top supporter just go offline like that? You gotta be kidding me. I've sunk nearly billions into this, and last night, after some painful reflection, I was ready to cast aside humanity and moral constraints, grit my teeth, and just go for it. Maybe I could have cleared the remaining 3. 83% in one go. The universe's profound art plus, thanks for your patronage. Judging from Lana's feedback, it might have a finishing blow effect. After all, not every woman is a Qingluan, right? The billions in cashback were secondary. The key was the Phase 2 settlement reward for breaking 100% favorability. The system had hinted it might include a Grandmaster title for a specific otherworld profession. He desperately needed that right now. Her Majesty the Empress's, just him, had utterly shattered his Grandmaster pride, leaving it in tatters. If it weren't so inappropriate, he would have even considered letting Her Majesty the Empress witness firsthand how he slaughtered those overseas barbarians. He was capable, okay. Fu Heng pursed his lips tightly, his expression darkening. Xia Xiaofeng and Fong Tiandai immediately fell silent, standing quietly to the side. Fu Heng, however, sighed inwardly and mentally reviewed the data values of his clients again. Then, to his dismay, he discovered that apart from his top supporter, the most promising one was actually that overseas barbarian. But this had a prerequisite. Lana would indeed have to give him 5 experience points per fight, just as he predicted. But Fu Heng knew, from his experience with Li Weiyang, that favorability had thresholds. Moreover, this overseas barbarian was a top student, and her physical constitution was like she was naturally vaccinated against weakness. What if he ended up cultivating an overseas version of the Empress? Who knew if, after fighting too much, she'd also want to learn the universe's profound art? So, was his main target now back to Shen Qingluan? But Qingluan's current situation didn't seem too normal either. Fu Heng's expression was grim as he walked silently towards the conference room. Behind him, Xia Xiaofeng and Fong Tiandai exchanged a subtle glance, silently elevating President Li's status another notch in their minds. They didn't know why Li Weiyang had gone abroad, but judging from Fu Heng's expression, there was definitely something going on. Pushing open the conference room door, he saw the heads of various crew departments seated neatly inside. Next to Director Lu Chong was none other than the Heavenly King Lu, whom Qingluan adored. Tiandai was indeed reliable. He had actually managed to get the Heavenly King here overnight. A smile finally appeared on Fu Heng's face as he enthusiastically greeted Heavenly King Lu. To be honest, apart from that drooling, effeminate guy, this was the first time Fu Heng had felt overshadowed by another man's looks face to face. Truly a superstar. He was even more handsome in person than on screen. Heavenly King Lu was also extremely cordial. After all, he was a Best Actor award winner. No matter how many doubts he had, he naturally wouldn't show them on his face. In fact, when he received a call from Weiyang Entertainment's Fong Tiandai yesterday, he had refused. What surprised him, however, was that just after he refused Fong Tiandai, his old friend Lu Chong called him and explained the situation with The Crow 3 in detail. The original The Crow had been a huge hit and a turning point in Heavenly King Lu's career, so he couldn't easily refuse Lu Chong a favor. But he had already signed a contract for the new film. It wasn't just about the penalty for breach of contract. The investors of the new film also had powerful connections. For both professional and personal reasons, he couldn't go back on his word. So, he chose a compromise. He had to give face. He couldn't afford to offend Weiyang Entertainment. What if there was a chance for future collaboration? He really couldn't film The Crow 3, but he felt it necessary to decline tactfully in person. At Lu Chong's earnest invitation, Heavenly King Lu arrived in Hanqing overnight. What surprised Heavenly King Lu, however, was how young this President Fu was. This made his assessment of the composer Qing He even clearer. How are the preparations? Can we start filming today? After some pleasantries, Fu Heng's first question left Heavenly King Lu speechless. This was indeed a very wealthy, clueless, rich second generation. A project they had only planned to start preparing yesterday was supposed to start filming today? Heavenly King Lu glanced at Lu Chong, then lowered his head, picked up his teacup, and silently took a sip. His own matter wasn't urgent, and he hadn't come all this way just to refuse someone with his first sentence. The review department replied this morning, "There are no issues. I'll handle the specific project procedures this afternoon. The initial script review has passed, and they will get back to us on some minor adjustments by this evening at the latest." Fong Tiandai sat up straight, her tone very calm as she replied. She was in charge of this project as well. At Weiyang Entertainment, she was now second only to Executive President Xia Xiaofeng. She had a faint premonition that if this project was successful, she might get promoted. Lu Tianwang choked on his water, suppressing a cough as his reddened eyes darted toward Lu Chong in disbelief. "Didn't you tell me yesterday this project plan was just finalized in the morning?" It hasn't even been 24 hours. Now you're saying it's officially greenlit, and the script has passed review? Are you kidding me? But to his surprise, Lu Chong looked just as stunned. It passed. The review. Lu Chong muttered, utterly shocked. He was no rookie. He knew better than anyone how many hoops of film had to jump through from proposal to approval. He'd spent years begging and pulling strings to push projects forward. And now this? Overnight? The relevant paperwork can be completed today or tomorrow, Fong Tiandai calmly interjected. We can start filming ahead of schedule without issue. Also, here are invitations from several top-tier film studios in the country. Director Liu, please review and let us know which venues you'll need. We can book them in advance. These studios are ready to prioritize our production. As she spoke, she handed out a thick stack of documents. Her expression remained calm and composed, like a seasoned stateswoman in a council chamber. But internally, she had been envisioning this moment since last night, imagining the reactions as she dropped this bombshell. Yep, nailed it. Exactly the expressions she had imagined. Truth be told, she barely slept at all. Her phone had rung non-stop through the night. As for President Fu's true identity, she no longer dared to speculate. Just how powerful was he? One phone call. And not only was the project immediately approved, but even the country's top film studios were falling over themselves to offer support. She knew one thing for certain. This was her takeoff moment. From now on, call her President Fong. Lu Chong's hands trembled slightly as he held the documents, stealing glances at Fong Tiandai's unreadable face. Could this all be an act to impress Lu Tianwang? These film studios were backed by regional authorities. Since when are they this easy to work with? But he was disappointed. Fong Tiandai was composed to the extreme, offering no hints or emotional cues at all. Director Liu, follow up on this immediately. As for the rest, Fu Heng looked satisfied with Fong Tiandai's efficiency. He knew full well that Chen Xiao, or whoever was behind Chen Xiao, had greased the wheels, but Fong's execution was still impressive. A few directors have confirmed they're on their way, though they'll likely arrive in the afternoon due to travel time. The division of tasks will ultimately be up to Director Liu. Fong Tiandai handed Lu Chong another list. Lu Chong scanned the names, and his heart sank. After seeing Fu Heng's attitude yesterday, he had already taken Raven's 3 seriously. He'd pulled every string he had to get Lu Tianwang to come all the way from Hong Kong. He hadn't slept either, instead staying up all night going over the script and mapping out the shot lists. But now, despite all his effort, it still felt like he was falling behind. Look at the names on that list. 3 directors alone had name recognition equal to or greater than his. If he didn't step up his game, he could be replaced anytime, just like Haonan. A deep sense of urgency hit him hard. Meanwhile, Lu Tianwang kept sneaking peeks at the list in Lu Chong's hands. Wasn't this supposed to be a fast food-style project? What was going on here? National studio support, A-list directors lining up. Was this all just hype and marketing? I've already finished breaking down the scenes. Once the other directors arrive, we can split the work according to each one's specialty, Lu Chong quickly added. He needed to re-establish his presence. Not bad. Fu Heng nodded, but his brows creased slightly. Didn't you say we were short on time and had a tight schedule? You're still waiting to divvy things up later. We've also secured a VFX studio, Fong Tiandai added coolly. Jean Fong has availability in their schedule. Jean Fong. Fu Heng turned to her. They're one of the top teams domestically. They did the effect for Legend of the Immortal Sword. Lu Chong interjected. Domestic? Fu Heng's frown deepened. It wasn't that local VFX teams were bad, but compared to the mature industrial-scale operations overseas, there was still a gap, both in quality and efficiency. Hadn't they agreed to only use the best? We reached out to Angela's team as well, Fong Tiandai quickly explained, catching his concern. They're willing to work with us, but their current schedule is full. They'd only be available later. Other foreign teams offer similar quality to Jean Fong, but they're generally unwilling to travel due to equipment constraints. We need to fly out to meet them. For the sake of time, I tentatively locked in Jean Fong. They're the best right now. Fu Heng's tone paused. For this kind of genre? Yeah, they're the top. Lu Tianwang chimed in instinctively. The room's atmosphere was getting tenser by the second. Then pay more. Make Angela's team take our project first, Fu Heng said firmly, looking at Fong Tiandai. They? She hesitated, then looked over at Lu Chong. He opened his mouth, but couldn't find the right words. Angela is part of Solomon's media division, Lu Tianwang explained, catching their hesitation. So they're not the easiest to negotiate with. Also, like she mentioned, they're not likely to come to Hansheng. Coordination going forward would be. Solomon. Fu Heng's brow shot up, cutting him off. Yes, Angela's under Solomon in Northern Europe, Fong Tiandai confirmed, only to be interrupted again as Fu Hang raised a hand. Do you have Old Soul's number? He asked, turning to Bald Dragon, the assistant standing stiffly nearby. Sorry, I don't. But Mrs. Fu probably does. I'll ask her right away. Bald Dragon snapped to attention, suddenly ashamed he didn't have the contact info ready. Within minutes, he got Solomon's private line from Qin Yu Chu. The atmosphere in the conference room had turned completely bizarre. Everyone exchanged glances, trying to figure out who this old soul was that Fu Hang could call directly and would actually answer. Fu Hang casually turned on speakerphone and tossed Bald Dragon's phone onto the table. Hello? Who's calling? A soft, melodious voice answered in flawless English, smooth as silk. Everyone at the table, except Lu Tianwang, looked visibly awkward. Wait, the boss didn't even have this woman's number himself? Had to ask the boss's wife for it. And the wife actually gave it to him. Now everyone was more curious than ever. Just who was this woman? Who is this? Fu Hang paused, slightly taken aback by the voice. He turned to Baldy, wondering if he'd misdialed. I apologize, I'm Mr. Solomon's personal assistant. Mr. Solomon is still asleep. If you have any business, you can tell me first and when. The young lady on the other end heard Fu Hang's question and instantly switched languages, replying in fluent Mandarin. But her melodious voice, like a canary's, was cut short by Fu Hang's brusque interruption. Not awake? Then wake him up. Fu Hang's voice was laced with impatience. As he spoke, he glanced at his watch. It's almost 9. This foreigner can't handle it, huh? Sleeping in like this. I'm sorry, sir, Mr. Solomon drank too much last night. The assistant didn't dare to be negligent. This was Solomon's private line, and the caller was speaking Mandarin. He had to be a very important figure from the East, or he wouldn't speak with such a tone. After all, the person who had hosted Mr. Solomon yesterday was the director of the local investment promotion bureau. She had accompanied them all night, and that director had been extremely respectful and polite to Mr. Solomon. And just a moment ago, a local official claiming to be the director of the local culture and tourism bureau had come to visit early in the morning. Upon hearing Mr. Solomon was still asleep, he had also politely said not to disturb him, to let Mr. Solomon sleep a little longer, and that they would wait. Yet this caller was so rudely demanding she wake him. Either his position was far higher than a director's, or he was extremely close and familiar with Mr. Solomon. The assistant, who had been by Jack Solomon's side for some years, quickly weighed the situation and made her judgment. You have 30 seconds to wake him. Tell him my surname is Fu. Fu Hang said, again with sheer arrogance. A brief silence fell on the other end of the line, followed by the clicking sound of high heels on the floor. In the conference room, everyone held their breath. This can't be real, can it, Mr. Solomon? However, 3 people remained as calm as Fu Hang, Baldy Long, Fong Tiandai, and Xia Xiaofeng. Hi, Mr. Fu. I didn't expect you to call me so early. I apologize, your director was just too hospitable yesterday. In less than 20 seconds, Solomon's enthusiastic voice came through the phone, but if one listened carefully, a hint of grogginess could be detected beneath the enthusiasm. The after effects of a hangover. That Angela who does special effects, is she one of yours? Fu Hang cut him off again, his voice growing even colder. Angela. Jack Solomon's just booted CPU began to load, but it was lagging badly. Air. Yes, Solomon does indeed have a special effect company under its umbrella. Good. Get them to Hansheng as fast as possible. I need to shoot a movie. It's urgent. Of course, I'll pay. To Hansheng. Solomon shook his head vigorously, his brain still loading, not quite running smoothly. A problem? Of course not. I'll instruct them to pack their bags and equipment right now. They'll be in Hansheng by tomorrow morning at the latest. Solomon jolted, the icy tone from the phone seeming to travel through the line and instantly clear his head. After hanging up, a still dazed Solomon stared at his assistant for over 10 seconds. The young assistant inwardly sighed with relief. Judging by Solomon's reaction, she had done the right thing by waking him. We do have a special effect company, right? Solomon's system hadn't quite finished rebooting. Yes, sir. The Angela team. They're currently the top special effects team in the world. Contact them immediately. Tell them to drop everything they're working on, pack their equipment, and come to Hansheng. Now, Solomon sat bolt upright in bed, slapping his forehead hard. Damn it, Eastern spirits were terrifying. They didn't feel like much when drinking, not particularly strong, even quite mellow. But then, before he knew it, he was completely out. Yes, sir, the assistant replied meekly after a slight hesitation. Wait, clear my schedule for today. Solomon waved his hand, preparing to go back to sleep to ease his headache. But sir, the director of the Hacheng Culture and Tourism Bureau is already downstairs. What? Jack Solomon's face stiffened. Images of yesterday's lavish reception flashed through his mind. He hurried to the window, carefully pulled back the curtain, and looked down. Good heavens! Gongs and drums were thundering, firecrackers crackled, colorful flags fluttered, flowers were everywhere, and he even spotted a marching band in the crowd. Never mind. You contact Angela quickly. I'll get dressed right away. Jack Solomon took a deep breath. As a nobleman, it was highly impolite to keep government officials waiting like this. It's just these Easterners were a bit too enthusiastic, weren't they? Back in the Weiyang Entertainment conference room, after Fu Hang hung up, the scene was dead silent. All right, the special effects issue is resolved. Any other problems? Fu Hang looked around, his gaze sweeping coolly over everyone. It's just about Heavenly King Lu. Fong Tiandai hesitated, looking weakly at Heavenly King Lu. The glance clearly said, "You tell him." Oh, Heavenly King Lu. Fu Hang's expression switched in a second, beaming with a smile. His childhood idol. Besides, if the movie was to win awards, the lead actor was crucial. President Fu, I apologize. I wasn't aware you were planning to shoot The Crow 3. My schedule for another film is already locked in, and that one starts production after the new year. Heavenly King Lu's voice suddenly sounded very troubled. Fu Hang's earlier displays were not those of a simple rich kid. What Weiyang Entertainment represented might be a true behemoth. If he weren't already committed, he truly wouldn't want to offend them. Another project? Fu Hang's smile froze on his face. He looked suspiciously at Fong Tiandai. Heavenly King Lu accepted a new film from Huana Entertainment. The contract was signed 6 months ago, Fong Tiandai replied honestly when Fu Hang looked his way. Fu Hang fell silent. The others in the room also lowered their heads quietly. Huana Entertainment was considered a leader in the domestic entertainment industry. This was indeed difficult to handle. Even if they pulled some strings to get Heavenly King Lu to juggle projects, it wouldn't be realistic. After all, this project needed to be completed in 2 months. Unless Huana could wait for Heavenly King Lu. But in film production, for investors, time is money. How could they delay for 2 months over this? That project is Huana's key project for next year, and it's a big investment, Fong Tiandai added weakly, seeing Fu Hang lost in thought, wanting to give his boss all the data to weigh the pros and cons. How much is the investment? Fu Hang looked up, not at Heavenly King Lu, but at Fong Tiandai. Reportedly, 300 million. Fong Tiandai had come from Huana, so he was relatively clear on some of their news. Besides, these figures were promotional points. Huana had long been publicizing it as a major investment in grand production. Huana is your old company, right? Contact them. I want that project of theirs. Tell them to name their price. Fu Hang's next words made the room so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Heavenly King Lu was dumbfounded. What did he mean? He wanted the project. Suddenly, he felt like he couldn't understand Mandarin anymore. Before coming, he had prepared many excuses. After witnessing Fu Hang's domineering side, he had also secretly considered many solutions. Greenlighting a project in a day, free choice of filming locations, summoning Angela with a single phone call. This film crew seemed very different for what he had imagined. To be honest, he was a little tempted. So, the most reasonable solution he could think of was for Fu Hang to use his connections or offer some compensation to get Hannah's production to wait for him for 2 months. It wasn't actually that difficult. Just push his scenes back a bit. At worst, it would mean owing someone a favor. All right, I'll try. What kind of premium are we talking about? Fong Tiandai, after a moment of shock, immediately understood Fu Hang's intention. Buy out the project? Then wouldn't he have the final say on when it films? What a power move. Just let them name their price. Any other problems? Fu Hang shrugged nonchalantly, looking around again. It's not my money anyway, right? We can even get more investment from our top benefactor. I'll just consider it as you going abroad to make money for me. Sorry, things are a bit urgent on my end. That film with Hannah is still yours. Heavenly King Lu, it just has to wait until this one is finished. Fu Hang explained seriously, noticing Heavenly King Lu's odd expression. Oh, by the way, you don't have any objections to starring The Crow 3, do you? Fu Hang added politely, as if he'd just remembered something. None at all. I'm very happy to collaborate with Weiyang Entertainment and President Fu. Heavenly King Lu replied instinctively, nodding emphatically. I believe our collaboration will be very pleasant. So, any other questions? Fu Hang looked at the group again, but everyone was speechless. Fu Hang's move seemed flawless, But why did it feel so surreal? Because of Heavenly King Lu's scheduling conflict. He just buys the conflicting project? Was the best way to solve a problem to eliminate the person who posed it? So when do we start filming? Seeing no other objections, Fu Hang slowly turned his head to look at director Lu Chang. This, when do we start filming, sounded completely different to everyone compared to when he'd asked before. Before, he sounded like a clueless rich kid, but now he was a truly formidable, take-no-prisoners force of nature. This morning, we could do costume fittings first, take the key characters' promotional stills, and then test a few shots. Director Lu Chang quickly got on board. He wasn't joking. If he was still dazed now, by the time the other directors arrived in the afternoon, he might really get replaced. He had a feeling he might actually be about to take off. His career, that is. Should I go first, or Heavenly King Lu? Fu Hang stood up, embodying decisiveness to the core. No kidding. To you, this is just a movie. But for me, this is a hidden quest. And a hidden quest with an accompanying side challenge, no less. If I complete this, the reward might genuinely be something world-changing. Something that establishes a moral compass for the world, secures the people's destiny, creates timeless knowledge for past sages, and brings peace for millennia. After his SIMP persona awakened to his true nature, that inexplicable sense of guilt toward his clients made him desperate to do something grand and noble. He needed a great and lofty excuse to cover up those sordid thoughts he didn't want to confront. President Fu, please go first. The makeup artist is already in the dressing room, Director Lu said hastily. Fu Hang politely bid farewell to Heavenly King Lu and headed to the dressing room first. This movie, what's the actual budget? Heavenly King Lu asked Director Lu in a low voice, pulling him aside after Fu Hang left. Didn't I tell you? No upper limit. Director Lu rubbed his face, trying to psych himself up to keep pace with Fu Hang. It looked like they were really going to finish the film in 2 months and then aim for awards at film festivals. Send me a copy of the script. Heavenly King Lu, after another wave of astonishment, finally began to slowly accept this reality. Because Fong Tiandai had already gone to contact Hannah. Make sure you read it carefully, Director Lu instructed, like he was briefing a new actor before pulling a group of assistants away to prepare other things. If they were truly going to finish the film in 2 months, they really had to race against time. An hour later, after reading the entire script, Heavenly King Lu sought out Director Lu again. Old Lu, President Fu is personally playing this clown? Heavenly King Lu's tone was filled with immense disbelief. Initially, when he heard Fu Hang wanted to personally play the villain, he wasn't particularly surprised. Many investors liked to cameo in films to satisfy their own interests. But after reading the script, he realized something was off. This wasn't just a simple villain. Rather, it was a film with dual male leads. The villain and the protagonist had almost equal screen time. Had Fu Hang invested so much just for a vanity project? But strangely, Director Lu didn't answer his question. Instead, he pursed his lips thoughtfully, looking at the monitor in front of him. Heavenly King Lu, suspicious, leaned in to look at the monitor, and then his eyes glazed over. On the monitor screen was Fu Hang, now in formal attire, with his features refined by the makeup artist and enhanced by professional lighting. Fu Hang looked like a completely different person. His gold-rimmed glasses exuded an air of scholarly elegance. The slight upturn of his lips hinted at a gentle nature, and especially the way his eyes casually met the camera. He strikingly resembled a university professor at a lectern. Where was even a trace of the sharp intensity he had displayed in the conference room earlier. He's got a great screen presence. Looks like he's had his picture taken a lot before. By the way, who's this cinematographer? Did you just hire them? Heavenly King Lu took a deep breath, feeling a bit of pressure. At the same time, he was also very curious about the cinematographer. Director Lu, however, still said nothing. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, looking towards someone walking in from outside the studio. When he saw this person, Heavenly King Lu was truly stunned. This was Fu Hang. His suit jacket was off, tie hanging loosely around his neck, and his shirt buttons were all undone, revealing well-defined muscles underneath. His hairstyle was almost unchanged, but the gold-rimmed glasses were gone, replaced by exaggerated and garish grease paint clown makeup on his face. The change in appearance brought about a complete transformation in his aura. He sauntered lazily to the backdrop, head bowed, mouth twisted, his eyes wild and brutal. Heavenly King Lu watched him quietly, as if he could see in the depths of the man's eyes an indifference to life and a mockery of the world. Damn, just from a look in his eyes? But what surprised Heavenly King Lu even more was that during the subsequent photo shoot, Neither the photographer nor the assistant said a single word. It was as if they had been working in perfect sync with Fu Hang for a long time. Just as Heavenly King Lu was about to ask, he gradually figured it out. It wasn't Fu Hang cooperating with the photographer, but the photographer cooperating with Fu Hang. He seemed to know exactly where the camera was, what angle, and what lighting would produce the best effect. Often, just as the photographer began to move, Fu Hang would proactively adjust his pose, and by the time the photographer stopped, his expression and angle would be perfectly framed for that shot. Master-level photography skills. That's right, the reward from that side challenge quest. At first, Fu Hang thought this skill was given to him for directing movies in the future. Unexpectedly, the moment he faced the camera, Fu Hang understood. It was to let him know where the camera was, to make him understand how to present himself in front of the lens. The daily life of someone with cheats, mortals would never understand. Heavenly King Lu unconsciously licked his lips. How many cameras had he faced in his entire life? This kind of camera sense. How many directors and photographers had it taken to train him to this level? Yet now, a rich kid, just doing this for fun, was actually better than him? He silently glanced at Director Lu, and from the director's solemn expression, he could also discern a great deal. Want to give a try? Director Lu asked in a barely audible voice, without turning his head. Sure. Heavenly King Lu's eyes narrowed, his interest piqued. A good scene partner was something every good actor desperately needed. When acting opposite someone, appropriate feedback could enhance an actor's expressiveness and emotional intensity. What Fu Hang had shown so far deserved his serious attention. He even had a fleeting thought that if he didn't bring his A game, he might be overshadowed by this rich kid who was just dabbling in acting. The passion that had cooled for so long slowly began to simmer within Heavenly King Lu. Pick a scene. A smile played on Director Lu's lips. I pick. He wrote the script. Director Lu understood what Heavenly King Lu meant. Heavenly King Lu's gaze froze again. It took him a good while to recover. Oh, right. This boss of theirs was also the talented Qingha. Next, under Director Lu's arrangement, Fu Hang and Heavenly King Lu rehearsed a scene together. It was a very simple scene, just a few lines. The purpose was merely to let them adapt to each other's acting rhythm, and also to let the director gauge the abilities of Fu Hang, who had never acted before. Fu Hang's screen presence was still excellent. His physical control and emotional build-up were also spot on. Only his line delivery was a bit weak. But even so, Fu Hang's performance left the others dumbfounded. You have to remember, he was acting opposite a Best Actor award winner, especially Heavenly King Lu. After that one rehearsal, the surging blood within him was thoroughly ignited. This movie had potential. And then, after rehearsing the scene, Fu Hang felt pretty good too. Acting for the first time and opposite a Best Actor at that filled him with excitement and also boosted his confidence about that reward. His Grandmaster-level physical control, plus the emotional intuition he'd honed over 3 years of unrequited devotion, made his body language and emotional management second nature. Line delivery not good? Isn't there post-production? If not, they could just find a professional voice actor to dub it. We could go check out the location for this outdoor scene, or we could try a few shots. Director Lu, startled by that, and then quickly flipped through the script. He had originally planned just a makeup test and then costume stills for that morning. Who would have known that? Under Fu Hang's personal guidance, the makeup artist finalized the clown makeup on the first try. And for the subsequent costume stills, Fu Hang nailed them in one take. Including the time spent rehearsing with Heavenly King Lu, it all took less than 2 hours. It was now 7 minutes to 11. Normally, it would be lunchtime by now, but Director Lu didn't dare say anything. Those other directors were arriving in the afternoon. He needed to keep them busy now. Is it far? Fu Hang took the script and glanced at it. It was a scene where the clown was being chased by the police. He had also noticed the time. If it was far, they could eat first. It was mainly because he had just acted, felt good, and still had his makeup on, making him a bit eager to continue. Not far. It's right at Weiyang 3rd Film Base. Director Lu waved his hand, and the various crew members sprang into action. Weiyang 3rd Film Base was Brother Honam's former turf, an old district in Hancheng, surrounded by run-down, small, old housing. Many of the film's extras already lived there. After the film base was established, the process of clearing out residents went very smoothly. This wasn't just because of Brother Honam's reputation and connections in the area. The fact that Weiyang Entertainment offered generous and prompt compensation also played a big part. By the time Fu Hang and the others arrived, the set was mostly ready. The original, Young and Dangerous had been filmed here, so the equipment and personnel were readily available. When we officially shoot, you'll jump out from here, then run on that E, vault over that low wall to there, and then run all the way from over there to that utility pole. Director Liu stood beside Fu Hang, using a laser pointer to trace a path along the rooftops lining the street. Fu Hang looked up. Being familiar with the plot, he naturally knew which scene this was. He carefully followed Director Liu's laser pointer, nodding continuously. Actually, Mr. Fu, you only need to run this part. Just this section will do. Seeing Fu Hang was satisfied with his choice of location, Director Liu breathed a slight sigh of relief. He'd actually just thought of this place in a flash of inspiration. To be honest, he hadn't been very confident about it before coming. What? Fu Hang was slightly taken aback upon hearing this. For those jumping and rolling parts, we have stuntmen, Director Liu said tactfully. Are you kidding? Most actors these days don't do dangerous stunts. How could he dare let his own boss do them personally? Stunt doubles? Fu Hang frowned slightly. Seeing Director Liu's awkward smile, he didn't say anything more. Heavenly King Liu, standing to the side, turned his head to look at a food stall. Director Liu had mentioned earlier that this stall was opened by a newcomer from Weiyang Entertainment. They would be eating lunch there. Heavenly King Liu was very curious. What kind of connections did this person have to open a restaurant inside the film base? Are there any drones? Fly one up so I can take a look, Fu Hang said quietly after a moment's hesitation. Yes, we do. Dazhuang, bring the monitor. Have Unit 2 fly the drone up. Director Liu quickly shouted. Internally, his respect for Fu Hang's meticulousness rose another notch. It was a good thing for the boss to be detail-oriented. If you were the only director, it might limit his creativity, but with a group of directors coming, the crew needed one authoritative voice to keep everyone in line. The drone quickly ascended, and Fu Hang carefully observed the terrain through the monitor. I think I understand how to run the course now. We'll eat at Honam's place, right? Have him go order the food first. Shall we try a take? Fu Hang flexed his fingers, eager to try. Now, Director Liu was genuinely stunned. Anyway, it'll take time for the food to be served, and the equipment is all set up. Dazhuang, right? Get all 3 drones in the air. One for an overhead shot, 30 meters distance at a 45-degree angle. One for a wide-angle horizontal shot, 50 meters distance at a 30-degree angle. And one for a parallel tracking close-up at 20 meters. Fu Hang, however, took off his outer jacket and started warming up. Dazhuang's expression stiffened for a moment, and he discreetly glanced at Director Liu. Quickly, what are you standing around for? All units, attention. Drone perspectives, run a test. Get cameras 6 and 7 set up too. Pay attention to the low-angle tracking shot. Camera 7, get the close-up. Director Liu reacted quickly. At this moment, it was crucial to keep up with the boss's pace and train of thought. Fu Hang quickly climbed to the designated spot, silently lit a cigarette, and lowered his head, seemingly to gather his emotions. There were cameras behind him as well. Since the boss wanted to play, they would naturally accompany him fully equipped. With Director Liu's action, Fu Hang slowly raised his lowered head, a cynical smile playing on his lips. As his lips parted further, the smoke from the cigarette held between them diffused around his mouth and nose, making the smile, enhanced by the clown makeup, appear chillingly sinister. Director Liu, staring at the monitor, was inwardly shocked. As expected of the scriptwriter himself acting, his grasp of the character and emotions was simply incredible. Heavenly King Liu, who had gathered nearby, also drew a sharp breath inwardly. This acting doesn't seem like a newcomer's, does it? His grip on the script tightened a little. Fu Hang's gaze into the camera lens moved many. But the next moment, his body fell straight backward. In the distance, Director Liu, staring at the monitor, felt his heart clench. That's not right. Isn't there a ladder on the side? You're supposed to climb down there, then start the next segment. Your starting point is down below. This was a 4-story terrace, and below it was a 2-story high street-facing shop. The rooftop parkour sequence in the script was set on the shop's roof. Of course, the clown character was supposed to jump down, but Fu Hang didn't need to, right? Didn't they just agree? He only had to run 2 segments. The rest would be done by the stunt double. From his height, falling in that posture. He's toast. There were absolutely no safety measures below. But Fu Hang, in free fall, executed a beautiful mid-air twist and landed steadily on ground. However, before the crew in front of the monitor could exhale the breath they'd been holding, the moment Fu Hang's toes touched the ground, he shot forward. Captured by the dynamic close-up lens of camera 3, Fu Hang was seen smiling, a wicked, exhilarating grin. Yet his movements were incredibly fluid. His leaps and bounds showed no hint of hesitation or delay. Fu Hang's agile skills didn't cause too much surprise. Apart from Heavenly King Lu, everyone else vividly remembered his fight scene with Ing Yanin. He's still looking at the camera? Heavenly King Lu's face was practically pressed against the monitor, cheek to cheek with Director Lu. He noticed that while running and jumping, Fu Hang would inadvertently glance towards several camera positions, especially the drone trailing behind him. Every time Fu Hang looked back, that brazen smile seemed like a sneer at the world. He's a natural-born actor. Director Lu, who had spent half his life shooting action films, could only explain it this way. He couldn't believe that Fu Hang, in his first on-camera appearance, possessed such keen camera awareness. To be able to precisely find the camera angles during such high-intensity movement. Crucially, every close-up capture by the camera was brimming with perfectly conveyed emotion. If nothing else, Director Lu even felt this set of shots was usable as is. He's taken the wrong route. A shout suddenly came through the walkie-talkie. Director Lu and Heavenly King Lu snapped their heads up, looking away from the close-up monitor towards the overhead shot from the drone. At a corner, Fu Hang was supposed to get onto the platform on the right, but instead he executed a beautiful somersault and landed on the left. There's no path ahead. Any further, and he'll be out of the studio grounds. The walkie-talkie crackled again. Warn him. Director Lu's heart seized up again, and he yelled. He's not wearing a communicator. His assistant mumbled weakly beside him. Weren't they just supposed to go up and test the cameras? Who knew he'd run this far? What's he trying to do? Heavenly King Lu, however, noticed that there was no path ahead, yet Fu Hang had vaulted onto an illegally built attic, his speed undiminished. Holy shit, Director Lu swore reflexively. He realized the severity of the situation. Action scenes like this, especially on location, were usually shot in segments, angle by angle. The wall climbing and parkour moves were also filmed position by position. But Fu Hang was doing it all in one go, without any prior choreography. Had he gotten carried away by the thrill of the run? When filming action scenes on set, the biggest fear was an actor getting too hyped up and losing control of their movements. Wasn't that what happened with Ing Yanin's fight scene earlier? Sure enough, the next moment, Fu Hang, having vaulted onto the attic, leaped into the air. Director Lu's heart stopped beating. There was nothing ahead. The nearest building was across the street. No matter how well he could jump, he couldn't clear 20 meters, could he? In an instant, Director Lu's mind flashed with countless beautiful memories from his past. The thrill of his first kiss with his wife, the joy of holding his child for the first time, the helplessness when his old mother passed away. However, a scene that shocked everyone unfolded in the next second. Fu Hang, lunging through the air, suddenly stopped. Arms raised high, he hovered in midair. The set fell silent. Even the curses and swearing died down. Everyone held their breath. Standing on air? Could this boss fly? As if his own life depended on it. Director Lu reacted with surprising speed. He hurriedly pushed his assistant aside to look at the footage from the drone, filming horizontally. It's high. Director Lu was utterly dumbfounded. At some point, Fu Hang had removed the tie from his collar. Mid-air, he'd folded it and hooked it onto a securing rope of a billboard, then started sliding down rapidly. Director Lu licked his lips, but still couldn't feel his heart beating. At this height, if either the tie or the rope couldn't bear Fu Hang's weight, Fu Hang would be in serious trouble. Though he couldn't actually hear it, Director Lu felt as if the zip-zip sound of a silk tie rubbing against a hemp rope was right by his ear. Fortunately, the tie the boss had worn himself was of good quality and didn't snap midway. When he was still a little over 2 meters from the ground, Fu Hang let go and landed smoothly. Director Lu suddenly felt a cold sweat pour out from his pores, instantly soaking his thermal underwear. Staring at the figure leisurely strolling down the street on the monitor, Director Lu momentarily forgot what he was even doing. Fu Hang walked along, slowly unrolling the cuffs of his shirt. Where he had landed was already outside the film studio grounds, on a real public street. Passers-by had actually seen Fu Hang suddenly descend from the sky and were staring at him curiously. A taxi pulled over nearby, and a mother with a child in her arms got out. The child saw Fu Hang's exaggerated clown face and giggled, pointing with a chubby finger. Fu Hang grinned at the child, his eyes full of playful affection. Then, he turned back, gave an even brighter smile to the drone hovering in the sky, and got into the taxi. Buddy, work at the film studio? The driver asked, unable to resist commenting on Fu Hang's extravagant makeup. Yeah, shooting a movie, Fu Hang replied with a smile. An extra, huh? How much do they pay a day now? The driver stepped on the gas, and the car merged into traffic. This question, however, made Fu Hang pause. Huh, that's right. What about my pay? A strange glint suddenly flickered in Fu Hang's eyes. Damn, I think I overlooked a very important shortcut. Should be quite a bit. Fu Hang pulled out a tissue from the passenger seat console and gently dabbed the sweat on his forehead, still stuck in that underdog mentality. The workhorse never gets the rancher's joy. Hell, I can totally pay myself a salary, can't I? Heard from a friend a few days ago. They can make $300 a day, and meals are covered. The driver glanced over, thinking, with that ghostly makeup and your face not even visible, you probably don't get that much, right? The guy I drove yesterday said he even had a line. More or less, Fu Hang said, feeling ecstatic, eager to go back and discuss his pay with Fong Tiandai. Right, where to? Turn around, just head back. Fu Hang grinned, very happy. The taxi driver, utterly bewildered, drove Fu Hang back to where he'd just been picked up, only to see a large crowd standing at the entrance of the film studio. He even thought he caught a glimpse of Heavenly King Lu. But the bald guy next to Heavenly King Lu was also quite eye-catching. Was he an actor too? Fong Tiandai. Pay up, and while you're at it, settle the fee for the driver. This taxi was in the shot just now, wasn't it? Fu Hang pushed open the car door and roared excitedly. A crowd swarmed over, but they all stopped about 3 meters away, each one looking at Fu Hang as if he were some kind of monster. Huh, where's Director Lu? Fu Hang looked around and realized Director Lu wasn't there. He's inside watching the playback, Baldy Long said, licking his lips, his face beaming, clearly sharing in the glory. Let's go. Let's see how handsome I looked in my first scene. Fu Hang waved his hand grandly and excitedly ran inside. Standing in the crowd, Heavenly King Lu's expression suddenly turned very grave. The script in his hand was already twisted into a pretzel. This President Fu, sparing no expense to buy Huana's project worth hundreds of millions and insisting on starring in it himself. Could it be that he wants to use me as a stepping stone? New singers stepping on established divas to rise to the top. It's not unheard of for new actors to try and leverage a film emperor, right? This Weyong Entertainment certainly had a track record for such things. But for some reason, a strange sense of anticipation suddenly welled up in Heavenly King Lu's heart. It was the kind of anticipation he felt when he first walked into an audition. That year, he was 17, sitting in Brother Honam's Dai Pai Dong. Fu Hang had already washed his face, but there wasn't a trace of smile on it, as if his smile had been washed away too. Just moments ago, he had furtively pulled Fong Tiandai aside and asked about his pay for the role. Fong Tiandai looked completely innocent, utterly unsure how to answer. Fu Hang's request was reasonable and legal. But was he trying to indirectly pay taxes to the state? The tax rate on an actor's salary wasn't low. Seeing Fong Tiandai couldn't give a clear answer, Fu Hang started to guide her. He didn't dare to ask for too much right away. He tentatively inquired, "Isn't this a dual male lead role? So, same pay as Heavenly King Lu? Nothing wrong with that, right?" However, just as he uttered this leading question, the system's notification sound went off. Damn system. I throw billions around for those dames, and you don't make a peep. I try to get a little hard-earned money for myself. And you say I'm not worth that price? How am I inferior to Heavenly King Lu? Hasn't he just won a few Best Actor awards? Did you see my performance just now? I risked my life for this movie. 4 stories high. That high. Without any safety measures. I swung out on a tie and jumped. The same stunt. You think the film emperor could pull that off? Fu Hang was thoroughly disinterested. He had no interest whatsoever in the so-called market rate for new actors. I make $600,000 a day just by lying around, $36 million a month for perfect attendance, $800 million a year for perfect attendance. Do I care about your paltry sum? But at the dinner table, Director Lu's smile was incredibly friendly. Just now, Director Lu had repeatedly watched the playback from several cameras and, in disbelief but unable to refute it, had come to a shocking conclusion. This set of shots was not only usable, it was perfect. So, the first scene of the drama was completed just like that, and it was a major scene that was originally planned. Everyone at the table had strange expressions, except for Heavenly King Lu. He seemed absent-minded, like an old bookworm addicted to chasing novels, holding his chopsticks, head down, reading the script line by line. This villain was putting too much pressure on him. "Boss," Angela Special Effects Company replied. "They can arrive tomorrow morning," Fong Tiandai said carefully, noticing Fu Hang's low spirits, trying to share some good news. Fu Hang's head drooped, completely devoid of interest. A bug he hadn't even used, yet had been fixed by the system, just like that. "But there's a problem here that might require you to handle it personally," Fong Tiandai, seeing Fu Hang didn't react at all, couldn't help but speak again. "Speak." Fu Hang's voice was unusually dejected. It's about the scene where we blow up the hospital. The special effects company needs to scan and model it in advance, but the hospital is... Fong Tiandai spoke vaguely. A hospital building wasn't something just anyone could go and scan from all angles. This was something she hadn't considered beforehand. After all, she was previously just an agent. It was already commendable that she could consider so many aspects. In her understanding, explosion scenes were done with special effects, so naturally, it wouldn't have been listed in the project proposal for Chen Xiao. Of course, she could also go to Chen Xiao again now. But Fong Tiandai knew very well, for this kind of thing, asking once used up a favor. Asking twice would count as two separate favors. She wasn't sure what kind of relationship that Chief Chun had with Fu Hang. She didn't dare to make the decision herself. Besides, that was a sub-bureau chief. How could she casually go looking for him? Why scan it? Fu Hang was taken aback. It's like this. Director Liu chimed in at the right moment. For special effects scenes to be realistic, we need to model the real building. This way, when it's blown up in post-production, it will look visually more authentic. The Angela team is really coming? I get it. What I mean is, why use special effects for this? If it's for realism, wouldn't it be better to just blow it up for real? Fu Hang looked at director Liu suspiciously. This really left director Liu speechless. Nothing wrong with that logic, right? It's not like an explosion with special effects looks better, does it? So, Fong Tiandai's heart suddenly started pounding. She wasn't quite sure what her boss meant. Buy an abandoned building, do a rush renovation. Anyway, as long as the exterior looks like a hospital, that's all that matters. Then we blow it up. A fierce glint suddenly flashed in Fu Hang's eyes. You block my salary, block my actor's fee? For the sake of the movie's realism and visual impact, there's nothing wrong with me buying a building and blowing it up, right? But the procedures and approvals. Fong Tiandai was still very clear-headed. Blowing up a building wasn't something you could do just for fun, even if you had money, even an abandoned one. Get Chen Xiao. Fu Hang pursed his lips indifferently. I'm trying to achieve something monumental here. You guys should put some more heart into it. Yes. Fong Tiandai said no more. But Director Liu, who was opposite him, felt as if his head had been cracked open and a skylight installed. His mind suddenly flooded with new possibilities. He looked at Fu Hang very strangely for several seconds, then looked down, and then up again. Boss, there's also the helicopter. Director Liu's tone was tentative. There's a helicopter chase and crash scene in the script. I've actually already contacted a rental company. Of course, the crash scene was also supposed to be done with special effects. But Fu Hang's move just now had broadened his horizons. The plane crash scene? Do you want a military one or a police one? Fu Hang frowned, thought for a moment, and gave an answer that almost made Director Liu bite his tongue. Military? Police? No, what I mean is, we could buy a civilian one. Either is fine. Director Liu suddenly stammered. He felt his thinking hadn't been big enough. Heavenly King Liu, who had been looking down all this time, finally raised his head, a look on his face as if he'd seen a ghost. You can even get your hands on that? Let me ask about that. Fu Hang pondered for a moment, then took out his phone. Chief Chun, there's something I need to report to you. I'm planning to blow up a building. Fu Hang was concise and got straight to the point. Chen Xiao on the other end almost dropped his phone. Fu Hang, don't be rash. What happened? We can talk this over. Chen Xiao was genuinely scared. This kid was someone who dared to send Gue Ying abroad to stir up trouble without even a heads up. He wouldn't be surprised by anything he said. No, you've misunderstood. It's still about the movie. I want to buy an abandoned building and then blow it up. Fu Hang rolled his eyes, speechless. What kind of person do you take me for? Wasn't I just asking you for a sniper rifle? And you didn't even give it to me, did you? Making a movie, huh? All right then. Have your people contact me later. If there are no issues in principle, we'll cooperate. The development of the film industry can also boost the local economy. After all, Chen Xiao audibly cleared his throat, a gravelly sound, and his tone softened. There's one more thing. Can you get your hands on a helicopter? Preferably military grade. Of course, I can pay. A second-hand one would be fine too. Violent coughing erupted from the other end of the line, followed by wheezing breaths that sounded like his lungs were about to give out. What do you need that thing for? Chen Xiao, having caught his breath, was utterly exasperated. For the movie, of course. We're buying it to blow it up too, but it needs to be one that can actually fly. Fu Hang replied earnestly. Hold on a moment. After understanding the situation, Chen Xiao hung up. This was something he, a mere branch bureau chief, couldn't decide on his own. Everyone at the dinner table stared at Fu Hang as if they'd seen a ghost. including Heavenly King Lu, whose script suddenly seemed less appealing. Soon, Chen Xiao called back. The helicopter is a go. It's a decommissioned P420. However, it must be operated by our personnel at all times. Your crew can't go near it, and after it's blown up, we'll need to recover the wreckage. Chen Xiao's tone was very serious. A decommissioned, second-hand one. Is that okay? Fu Hang turned his head to ask an expectant Director Lu. Director Lu nodded so vigorously his head almost touched the ground. He looked ready to kowtow right then and there. You can rest assured, 100 times over. Let's agree on this first. The guys who come over, I'll pay them the highest actor's salary. As for the helicopter's price, I'll have Tian-Dai discuss it with you later. Don't try to save me any money. Fu Hang chuckled happily. Director Lu felt like he was dreaming. A sense of unease settled in his heart. The thought had just crossed his mind. The car chase scene might require quite a few sports cars. Now, he found himself completely unable to bring it up. A small matter of a few cars, Tian-Dai should be able to handle it, right? Better not to bother the boss. Across from him, Heavenly King Lu said nothing. He silently put down his chopsticks, pulled a fountain pen from his pocket, and began writing a character biography for Crow. If he didn't bring out his A-game, wouldn't he be letting this production down? As for an award-winning actor's performance being overshadowed by a newcomer, that was unimportant, truly unimportant. The food arrived quickly, and surprisingly, Ho Nam himself was serving it. He was still doubling as the assistant director for this crew. After all, with over 1,000 men, things didn't seem to run smoothly without him. Oh, right? Is there a role for Ho Nam in Crow 3? Fu Hang suddenly thought of this when he saw Brother Ho Nam. He felt a bit embarrassed. He'd promised to arrange a leading role for him, only for one project after another to be postponed. While not exactly reneging on his promise, merely delaying it, Boss Fu still felt a twinge of guilt. After all, this was someone old Duan had brought, and there were probably other arrangements for him. Yes, Ho Nam's role was decided yesterday. He's the secondary male antagonist. Director Lu, knowing Fu Hang valued Brother Ho Nam, quickly replied. Heavenly King Lu looked up again, staring at the handsome waiter before him. The secondary male antagonist? An important role? Serving food, right here? Was the hierarchy at Wei Yang Entertainment really this strict? Hesitating, Heavenly King Lu silently put his script away. No need to rush this, better to focus on eating. Then what about my role? A voice suddenly interjected. Fu Hang didn't turn around, but his eyebrows twitched. Yan'an? Come sit. Director Lu reacted quickly, hastily making space next to Fu Hang. Did you really halt production on the young and dangerous set? Yan'an sat down, her face cold, staring unblinkingly at Fu Hang. Her gaze sent shivers down Fu Hang's spine. He felt a cold, damp sensation from his chin to the corner of his eyes. It's just postponed. We need to rush the schedule on this one. Fu Hang inexplicably glanced at Yan'an's hands. Thankfully, she wasn't carrying that staff of hers. But for some reason, his gaze then drifted to her long legs. From this angle, a sidekick would be hard to dodge. But still, aren't you cold? Wearing stockings in the middle of winter? And black ones at that. Do I look good? Yan'an, noticing Fu Hang's gaze, bent her legs forward, adjusting her angle to perfectly display her curves. Fu Hang awkwardly averted his gaze. What on earth is wrong with this woman? He carefully looked around, noticing everyone was staring intently at the dishes on the table, as if completely captivated by the food, yet strangely, no one was picking up their chopsticks. About the role, you should ask Director Lu. Here, I'm just an actor. Fu Hang said matter-of-factly, glancing at Director Lu, who was intently focused on the Yuxiang Row C. Is there a role for me in this movie? Yan'an turned her head, looking at Director Lu with a blank expression. Well, there is. Naturally there is. Director Lu carefully replied, glancing sidelong at Fu Hang, only to see Fu Hang had already picked up his chopsticks, offering no hint whatsoever. To be fair, this was a dual male lead film. Female characters were all minor, essentially NPCs to advance the plot, with hardly any screen time. The only female role with a bit of substance was a white-collar woman taken hostage at the beginning. But how could that role possibly fit Sister 13? Kidnap her? The kidnappers would have to be insane. As long as there is one. I want to play his wife. The piece of broccoli Fu Hang had just put in his mouth very impolitely leaped out on its own. Director Lu's eyes widened. Fu Hang's eyes widened even more. But everyone else seemed not to have heard her at all, earnestly picking up their chopsticks and starting to eat. Only, no one reached for the broccoli in front of Fu Hang. That's not suitable. The theme of this movie, the antagonist character design, isn't suited for a romantic subplot. Director Liu carefully chose his words, looking pleadingly at Fu Hang. He wasn't trying to get Fu Hang out of a bind. It genuinely wasn't appropriate. But a flicker of astonishment suddenly crossed Fu Hang's wide eyes. Movie King Life side quest triggered. Within a limited time, cultivate a movie queen using the designated script. Mission reward: 1 grand year-end lottery draw. Designated script: Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn. Time limit: 6 months. As the cold, mechanical notification sound faded, Fu Hang's gaze towards Nan became complicated. After Zhuge Yun, was he going to have to groom another movie queen? Were there any normal women in this entertainment circle? But still, a year-end lottery draw? Holy crap. Could the Grandmaster title for a special profession be tied to you? Fu Hang's heart thumped wildly. Yanin, listen to me. Director Liu began, his gaze tentatively flickering past Fu Hang to land on Heavenly King Liu, who was eating with his head down. In this film, the role of the Joker really isn't suited for a romantic subplot. If you're set on playing the female lead, well, that could be discussed. Heavenly King Liu's heart skipped a beat. You can't be serious, can you? When this girl had first arrived, he'd been quite impressed. Such a striking young woman, with a fantastic physique, and especially that devil-may-care aura, a rare quality among actresses. But after hearing the conversation that followed, he knew he should stay silent. He'd seen far too much of how things worked in the world of capital. Anyone who dared speak to Fu Hang like that needed no further explanation. Hadn't he noticed? From the moment she walked in, the girl hadn't even given him, Heavenly King Liu, a superstar in film, television, and music, a proper glance. Completely ignored by a mere slip of a girl. Sensing director Liu's gaze, Heavenly King Liu sighed inwardly. It wasn't uncommon for powerful connections to shove people into film crews. From the director's tone, it seemed he was planning to give Crow a female companion. So much for Joker not getting a romantic storyline. They're just manufacturing one elsewhere, huh? We can add it, Fu Hang suddenly declared, his expression serious. Director Liu paused, momentarily unsure what or where they were adding. You'll play my wife. I'll add a role for you, Fu Hang stated, sitting up straight, his tone imbued with a sense of righteous magnanimity. Director Liu's eyes glazed over again. Damn it, this has backfired spectacularly. Who knew this boss had so many women and was so possessive? Couldn't she even act it out in a movie? According to the plot, giving Crow a female partner would be far more fitting than adding a wife for Joker, wouldn't it? However, in this film, your screen time won't be much, Fu Hang said seriously, looking at Yanin. Her expression remained placid, but her eyes suddenly flickered with a bashful coyness. That's fine, my requirements for screen time are. Let me finish first, Fu Hang interjected, raising a hand. Your major role will be in Crow 4, a film centered around a strong female lead. Yanin and director Liu were both dumbfounded. Anyway, the crew is already assembled. Everyone's here. Fu Hang continued with a grand wave of his hand, his eyes burning with intensity. After we finish filming Crow 3, we'll immediately start on Crow 4. We can even shoot them concurrently when we have spare personnel or available sets. Hanan, give me a laptop. I'm going to write the script now. Talk about a lucky spin of the wheel. A year-end lottery jackpot. For him, this impulse was an even higher priority than his grand, ushering in an era of universal peace initiative. I have a laptop, Fong Tiandai hurriedly offered, handing over the one she carried. But her gaze toward Yanin grew a shade more serious. Little Yun, a direct competitor has emerged. You'd better step up your game. Speaking of which, she had arranged for Little Yun to shoot an MV these past few days. She'd released several new songs, and the theme song for the milk tea shop was also due for release. Should she pause Little Yun's work over there? Call her back? Fu Hang simply sat before the laptop, his hands flying across the keyboard. Everyone at the table had put down their chopsticks, staring at him with stunned expressions. They genuinely couldn't find the words to describe this boss who was so imperiously unreasonable, yet acted entirely on his whims. Crow 3 had only started filming half a day ago, and now was Crow 4? All because his woman said, I want to play your wife? In less than 20 minutes, Fu Hang, with the speed of a grandmaster, had transcribed the script from his mind. Director Liu, take a look. Arrange the resources accordingly. I remember you saying there's a film festival in 6 months. I want her to win Best Actress. Fu Hang pushed the laptop towards Liu Chong. Across from him, Fong Tiandai thought, as expected, silently took out her phone and tapped on Zhuge Yun's profile picture. Director Liu looked at the screen dubiously, but his expression gradually became a spectacle, shifting from confusion to bewilderment, then to surprise, and finally to shock. His reaction drew everyone's attention, and they began to speculate what this miraculous boss could have written in such a short time. The others didn't dare approach, but Heavenly King Liu, relying on his status and friendship with Director Liu, walked around the table and stood behind him. After all, wouldn't Crow for still need him, the Crow? Then, his expression also became increasingly animated. Are you sure this was just written? This boss is simply terrifyingly brilliant. Overflowing with talent doesn't even begin to describe this kind of genius. Fu Hang was very pleased, his chin slightly raised. With a composed and self-satisfied air, he picked up his chopsticks again and elegantly selected a piece of broccoli. Ah, the thrill of showing off like this is just too good. Why didn't I understand how to enjoy this pleasure before? His gaze subtly shifted to Ying Yanin, who sat nearby looking somewhat dazed, and then unconsciously drifted downwards. You can touch it if you like, a calm voice sounded by his ear. Fu Hang snapped his gaze back, looking at Ying Yanin awkwardly. He found her looking at him very earnestly, her expression as if she were holding an adorable Pekingese dog and telling him, if you like it, you can pet it. Fu Hang instantly felt his neck stiffen. Even the most seasoned lecher would find such a blatant provocation hard to handle. What on earth is wrong with this woman? Never mind your seduction technique, which is as subtle as wielding Guan Yu's green dragon crescent blade. So many people are watching. Fu Hang was so embarrassed his toes curled, and he chewed his broccoli forcefully. Director Liu silently closed the laptop screen. Beyond his shock, his mind began to race. Fu Hang was right. For films in the same series, many scenes could be shot concurrently. They could even treat it as shooting a 240-minute film instead of a 120-minute one. This crew had the people, the money, even the on-call extras and production assistants numbered over 1,000. It wouldn't be a burden at all. His mind was already starting to break down the tasks. Damn it, he thought this time I might actually hit the big time. Forget Best Actor or Best Actress. With these scripts and this investment, I'm confident I can contend for Best Director. As Heavenly King Liu sat back down, his expression was tinged with confusion. Crow 4. Had no scenes for Crow? Was Fu Hang dissatisfied with him? Recalling Fu Hang's various actions, a sliver of uncertainty crept into Heavenly King Liu's heart. Boss, we've heard back from Huana, Fong Tiandai reported quietly, seeming to notice Heavenly King Liu's change in demeanor. Oh, what did they say? How much are they willing to sell that project for? Fu Hang composed himself, shifting his focus from Ying Yanin's legs. They refused, but they agreed to replace Heavenly King Liu. It's just the breach of contract fee. Fong Tiandai glanced at Heavenly King Liu again, speaking hesitantly. Refused? Replace him? Fu Hang was slightly stunned. This was unexpected. Don't you make movies to earn money? Isn't it better to just take the money without doing any work? I even told you to name your price. With Brother Tongzi around, Fu Hang thought, if you invested 300 million in a project, I'd dare to take it over for 3 billion. As long as you dare to ask, I dare to give. Besides, you only invested 300 million, and that money hasn't even been spent yet, has it? That project, Fong Tiandai answered cryptically, is personally overseen by Huana's crown prince. It's also the first project he took charge of after joining the company. She had only found out this morning after contacting Huana that the project had a new person in charge, and this new person was Huana Entertainment's crown prince, Gao Lianghe. The moment Fong Tiandai heard their reply, she understood. That project was Crown Prince Gao Lianghe's way of establishing himself at Huana, and similarly, it wasn't profit-driven. Furthermore, it was foreseeable that if Fu Hang hadn't been assertive enough, offering to acquire their project as compensation to free up Heavenly King Liu's schedule, they probably wouldn't have agreed to terminate the contract so easily. And if they couldn't terminate the contract amicably, even paying the full breach penalty would have caused considerable trouble for Heavenly King Liu, for the Crow 3, and for Wei Yang Entertainment. It could be said that their willingness to terminate amicably and accept the contractually stipulated penalty was a testament to Fu Hang's powerful presence taking effect. They had given him this face. We'll cover the termination fee. Fu Hang's smile faltered, and he looked at Heavenly King Liu with some embarrassment. At this point, the Crow 3 was like an arrow notched on a bowstring. It had to be loosed. Naturally, they couldn't let Heavenly King Liu go back. Are you kidding? They'd already bought the building, chartered the helicopter. Could the lead actor really leave? Heavenly King Liu, of course, understood the implications. He met Fu Hang's gaze, his expression somewhat complex. It was the same old story. If he could help it, he really didn't want to offend Huana. But clearly, he had now thoroughly offended that Crown Prince Gao Lianghe. I apologize, I didn't think this through properly. Tiandai will handle the contract termination, including any subsequent compensation for Brother Liu. Fu Heng apologized sincerely. He had indeed taken things for granted. He wasn't the only tycoon in this world. There were plenty of people with money to burn. Heavenly King Liu said nothing, merely offering a strained smile and indicating he would do his best on the Crow 3. Heavenly King Liu, have you considered endorsing Ganlu milk tea? Fu Heng suddenly frowned, asking with utmost seriousness. Heavenly King Liu, who had been about to change the subject, was taken aback, his expression turning serious. For celebrities, endorsements were a staple source of income and also part of their regular work. Heavenly King Liu himself had many endorsements. But endorsing a milk tea brand? It wasn't that Ganlu milk tea wasn't doing well now. On the contrary, it was doing too well. Its popularity had already exploded beyond its niche, especially its theme song marketing model, which was deeply intertwined with the entertainment industry. But this was also why Heavenly King Liu hesitated. He saw through Ganlu milk tea's business model at a glance. Excessive marketing, inflating its valuation, then cashing out and exiting. Therefore, Ganlu milk tea's reputation was bound to collapse suddenly at some point. This was also why, despite really wanting to collaborate with Fu Heng on a song, he had never considered doing a theme song for Ganlu milk tea. At his current status in the entertainment industry, he no longer needed such marketing. In a nutshell, the cons outweighed the pros. I know what Brother Liu is worried about. Listen to this song first. Around here, endorsements involve singing. Fu Heng suddenly flashed an intriguing smile. Heavenly King Liu was slightly stunned, only to see Fu Heng turn the bowls, plates, and cups in front of him upside down on the table and start drumming a rhythm with his chopsticks as if playing a drum set. You could tell an expert by their touch. Fu Heng's casual drumming immediately captured everyone's attention. The rhythm was very festive. Congratulations on your fortune. Congratulations on your brilliance. May the best come forth. May the bad depart. Oh, there's no harm in being overly polite. As he drummed the rhythm, Fu Heng swayed his head and began to hum and sing. This song, as Fu Heng sang it, was a bit comical with a touch of humor, and the lyrics were simple and colloquial. In fact, compared to Fu Heng's previous songs, it seemed rather ordinary. But Heavenly King Liu, sitting there, slowly widened his eyes. Fong Tiandai, at the side, also had a look of delight spread across her face. This was a sure hit. Like Heavenly King Liu, Fong Tiandai understood the true essence of the song after hearing just half of it. It was predictable that once this song was released, it would rapidly spread through every street and alley during the upcoming Spring Festival. The importance the people of this nation placed on the Spring Festival, their desire for auspicious sayings, and their yearning for a good life would endlessly stack buffs onto this song. Heavenly King Liu couldn't possibly refuse this song. And at the same time, if Ganlu Milk Tea used this song as its Spring Festival theme and promoted it in all its stores, the milk tea shop's marketing would reach a new level. Was the boss planning this all along? Heavenly King Liu's expression suddenly turned peculiar, as he too had thought of the same thing. This Fu Heng truly couldn't be underestimated. This was an overt scheme. Knowing he harbored resentment for offending Huana, Fu Heng was outright tying him to his worship, but it didn't seem like a bad deal. The power Fu Heng demonstrated didn't seem inferior to the capital backing Huana Entertainment. The key was this song, Gong Shi Fa Kai. Heavenly King Liu's foresight was even greater than Fong Tiandai's. If he sang this song, it was highly likely to become a standard anthem for the Spring Festival season. It was possible that many years later, Ganlu Milk Tea might no longer exist, but as long as it was Spring Festival, this song would resonate throughout the land. Actually, he had been invited to this year's Spring Festival Gala, but he had declined due to not having a suitable song. If he'd had the song earlier, he definitely wouldn't have refused. Fu Heng finished the song and looked at Heavenly King Liu, still feeling like he could go on. Heavenly King Liu gave a wry smile and shook his head. His expression had already answered everything. No rush. Tiandai, what other promotions does Ganlu have planned later? We can't have a Heavenly King of Brother Liu's stature just singing a theme song for individual stores. Yes, boss. Ganlu is preparing to launch a new product, and the marketing department wants to request a theme song from you for this new product to be released simultaneously. Fong Tiandai quickly spoke up. She naturally saw that Fu Heng intended to pin Heavenly King Liu down to this commitment. Oh, a theme song for new product. Fu Heng stroked his smooth chin. Due to the makeup, his chin was exceptionally smooth, and he wasn't quite used to the feeling of no stubble. Previously, for the milk tea shops, it was one theme song per store. But the marketing team was truly astounded by Fu Hang's songwriting speed and quality. At the same time, they had also tasted the sweet benefits. Someone from Hengyu quickly made a bold suggestion. Give a new product a theme song, so that when people heard the song, they would think of this milk tea, and when they drank the milk tea, they would think of the song. Deep integration. As long as the song was popular enough, the new product sales couldn't possibly be small. What product is it? Fu Hang seemed to be vaguely figuring out the strategy behind it. It's a relatively light, lemon-flavored drink. Ganlu has named it Wang Qing, with the concept of forgetting all worries. Fang Tiandai's professional competence was quite strong. She precisely conveyed the sister company's request. Actually, she should have approached Fu Hang with this request a few days ago. She was practically Fu Hang's manager now. All of his songs were arranged and implemented through her. She currently managed 4 artists: Zhuge Yun, Hao Nan, Ing Yanan, and now Fu Hang. But because of the sudden change in film crews and the rush to meet deadlines, she hadn't dared to mention it, thinking she would bring it up at a more suitable time. However, after stating the request, she felt a little apprehensive. Fu Hang's prolific output defied common sense. Even the most talented person couldn't possibly be as prolific as Fu Hang while maintaining both quality and quantity, right? Including Gong Shi Fa Kai just now, Fang Tiandai suspected that Fu Hang had written it long ago, waiting for Heavenly King Lu to take the bait. And now, faced with a sudden themed composition, could Fu Hang handle it? Heavenly King Lu's eyes crinkled with amusement. Gong Shi Fa Kai was enough for him. He wasn't one to be insatiably greedy. Of course, once Fu Hang composed a new theme song, he could give a listen. If the quality matched the previous standard, he wouldn't mind taking on an additional endorsement for the new product. Heavenly King Lu picked up the teapot from the table, filled his own cup, and was just about to toast his new boss when he heard Fu Hang turn his head and look towards Brother Hao Nan. Got a guitar? I have one in my car, I'll go get it. Baldy Long's massive head seemed to flash for a moment before he disappeared. Brother Long's trunk actually held a lot more. Brother Long's full name was Long Out Yin. He wasn't just Big Brother's bodyguard anymore. He was also the personal assistant to a top-tier composer and future best actor. He was always well prepared. In less than 3 minutes, Baldy Long returned, panting heavily. It was a mystery how someone of his bulk could move so fast. When he got back, the people at the table still hadn't recovered from that. Got a guitar? What did he mean? Was he going to compose lyrics and music on the spot? Stop kidding around. They were in the middle of a meal. Besides, this was a song for Heavenly King Lu. He couldn't afford to mess this up. But before anyone could react, Fu Hang was holding the guitar, and an intro, as smooth and clear as flowing water, began to play. Before he started singing, Fu Hang said to Fang Tiandai, "Tell Gan Lu's side, change the new product's name. Don't call it Forget Love anymore. Just call it Forget Love Water." When Heavenly King Lu heard about changing the name, he smiled inwardly, as expected, but the next moment he paused, slightly stunned. Forget Love Water? Once young, I loved to chase dreams, my heart set only on soaring ahead. Traveled through countless mountains and rivers, a journey with no turning back. Suddenly looking back, love has drifted far, an involuntary exile to the horizon. Only then did I understand love, hate, passion, and sorrow. The deepest wound, the sharpest pain, is regret. A rich, magnetic voice rang out. Heavenly King Lu was dumbstruck. This can't be real, right? Just like that? Are you and Fang Tiandai putting on a show for me? Many people from the film crew wore similar expressions. For many of them, it was also the first time hearing Fu Hang sing live. Previously, they had only seen him singing to pick up girls on short video platforms. Indeed, the short videos must have been edited because Fu Hang's voice sounded very different from what they heard on their phones. If one listened closely, it felt like Fu Hang was imitating Heavenly King Lu's singing style. Heavenly King Lu himself realized this after listening to a couple of lines. You really tailor-made this? You even took my vocal conditions into account? No, your singing skill. So, not only is my Best Actor title going to be overshadowed by you, but you're also planning to trample on my King of Songs title in the future? If your heart had never been broken, you wouldn't understand my sorrow. When tears are in my eyes, don't ask who they're for, just let me forget it all. Give me a cup of Forget Love Water to trade for a night without tears. All my sincerity and true feelings, let them be battered by wind and rain. The love I gave cannot be taken back. Give me a cup of forget love water, to trade for a lifetime without sorrow. Even if I get drunk, even if my heart breaks, you won't see me cry. As the song reached the chorus, the only person at the scene who hadn't looked up at Fu Hang finally tilted her head, gazing at the profile, so close to her. Did he see through my feelings? Does he know why I wanted to play his wife? Is he trying to tell me something? Ing Yanan's eyes were filled with confusion and panic. Inexplicably, fragmented memories of getting to know him, meeting him, and spending time with him surfaced in her mind. The images were chaotic, some real, others indistinguishable from dreams. So, his strength and imposing presence were all a facade, including his lecherousness and shamelessness. He only lets his tears fall in the depths of his heart, just like me. Ing Yanan's eyes flickered, a wave of sorrow suddenly surging in her heart. She deeply felt the bitterness contained in the song. If your heart had never been broken, you wouldn't understand my sorrow. All my sincerity and true feelings, let them be battered by wind and rain. She suddenly felt like she understood Fu Hang. This was a man who appeared strong on the outside, but was incredibly lonely on the inside. Could it be that none of the women around him understood him? Inexplicably, Ing Yanan felt a pang of heartache. Give me a cup of forget love water. As the chorus repeated, Fu Hang was completely immersed in the emotion. This was the terrifying power of a cheater. Along with access to a golden song library, he came with all the singing techniques. Instant immersion, singing with his soul. If there wasn't a king of song's life mission, Fu Hang felt he could complete it in an instant. Give me a cup. During the second repeat, Fu Hang tilted his head back, his emotions soaring even higher, but he didn't finish the line. No particular reason, his mouth was covered. A series of violent coughs erupted from the onlookers. Everyone quickly lowered their heads and resumed their intense study of the dishes at Hao Nan's diner, meticulously examining everything from the presentation style and ingredient selection to nutritional value and artistic arrangement. Fu Hang's mind went blank. Holy crap, did I just get forcibly kissed? The tongue in his mouth was rough, completely lacking the tenderness of a French kiss. Fu Hang truly experienced what a battle of lips and tongues meant. He even felt like Ing Yanan's clumsy tongue was performing a set of the 9 swords of Dugu in his mouth, nearly prying loose the domestically made porcelain crown he'd gotten in his 3rd year of middle school. The sudden silence after the chorus of coughs jolted Fu Hang back to his senses. So many people were watching. He struggled to push Ing Yanan away, only to discover in astonishment that the woman had actually straddled him, sitting on his lap over the guitar. Fu Hang's eyes were wide with bewilderment. What on earth are you doing? Ing Yanan's gaze, however, was earnest, a mix of persistence and pity, as she stared at Fu Hang from up close without blinking. Don't cry. Yanan will take care of you. Ing Yanan's tone was like a kindergarten teacher coaxing a child. But combined with her makeup and current posture, her words sounded more like a wealthy gangster godmother who had ordered a male escort at a KTV. It gave off a strong, be good, drink this, and you'll be my man vibe. Fu Hang felt lines of exasperation forming on his forehead. You should see a doctor, seriously. How long has this been going on? Does your family know? Don't stop taking your meds. If that doesn't work, maybe try traditional Chinese medicine. The bizarre and awkward lunch ended hastily amidst everyone's discomfort. In the afternoon, all personnel arrived. Apart from the Crow 3 becoming the Crow 3+4, which startled some of the invited directors, everything else began to move forward with great momentum. Director Lu's control and coordination skills were quite impressive. With Fong Tiandai's cooperation, the personnel were divided into several groups. They spent the afternoon in discussions, splitting into different teams and advancing on all fronts simultaneously. As the saying went, this film crew lacked nothing but time. In fact, if someone were to make a list, they'd realize this setup was hardly just one film crew. Each of the separated subgroups, if taken out individually, would be stronger than an average film crew. It was against this backdrop that Fu Hang truly began his acting career. He finally understood the kind of whirlwind schedule Li Weiyang had endured, constantly flying across the country. He started rushing between various film sets nationwide. The efficiency of the crew, especially the logistics team, was astounding. Under Brother Honam's mobilization, their numbers had once swelled to 2,000. It could be said that every production unit was packed with an incredibly effective workforce. How could efficiency lag? Thus, for his debut, Fu Hang enjoyed A-lister treatment. Often, when he arrived at set, he'd walk in, start shooting immediately, and once done, he'd leave for the next location. Travel time was used for makeup touch-ups, changes, and rest. He might be in Seoul in the morning, Hongdian by the afternoon, and shooting a night scene on the outskirts of Haicheng, only to film a sunrise in the capital city at dawn. This level of work efficiency and intensity directly galvanized the entire crew, especially Heavenly King Lu, who also played a leading role. The veteran actor, with half a lifetime in the industry, felt the mounting pressure from the surging new wave of talent. The directors in charge of filming were astonished to discover that this wealthy and influential President Fu wasn't the whimsical, rich kid merely buying an experience, as they had initially imagined. He could genuinely act, and he acted very well. After a quick exchange in their private group chat, a few directors came to a shocking conclusion. Fu Hang nailed almost every shot in one take. It wasn't that there were no NGs, but none of them were because of Fu Hang. This wasn't the directors going easy on him due to his financial backing, was it? Once on set, everyone knew how much money had been poured into the film. Who would dare to lower standards on a shot they were responsible for? But Fu Hang was magical. His emotions always perfectly aligned with the script's demands. Even more astoundingly, his camera sense was like that of a full-time master cinematographer. Without needing any prompting, he always found the perfect angle. A few times, he even spoke up to suggest adjustments to the camera's position. With such an incredible and efficient team working around the clock, Director Liu was stunned to find that in just 15 days, all of Fu Hang's dramatic scenes and most of his action sequences were completed. 15 days. Over 600 shots, all done. Apart from two major scenes, the hospital explosion and the car chase helicopter explosion, which couldn't be filmed yet due to incomplete preliminary preparations, there were no more shots left for Fu Hang. Watching Fu Hang casually leave in his car, with seemingly nothing left to do, Director Liu was overcome with emotion. It was as if Fu Hang had come to teach them a lesson. So, movies could be made like this? His gaze involuntarily shifted to the several stuntmen behind him, men who had followed him for many years. Meeting Director Liu's eyes, the stuntmen lowered their heads, variously dejected, ashamed, or sighing heavily. Speaking of being hit hard, these stuntmen were the most demoralized group on set. Heavenly King Lu, relying on his years of experience and giving a 120% performance, had barely managed to preserve his best actor reputation. But the stuntmen, who had initially planned to go all out and impress the boss, were utterly outclassed. To put it simply, anything the stuntmen could do, Fu Hang could do himself, requiring no double. Anything the stuntmen couldn't do, Fu Hang could still do, and he was even more fearless than them, daring to perform any high-difficulty, dangerous stunt personally. Especially in a few fight scenes, Heavenly King Lu's stunt double was left traumatized. The scenes were explosive, adrenaline-pumping, and passionate, but the stunt double was haunted by the persistent illusion of not participating at all. Weren't we supposed to be fighting each other? Why does it feel like I'm just being carried along for the ride? His body felt completely controlled. He'd barely lift a leg, and Fu Hang's face would be there. His leg would make contact, or not even, and Fu Hang would already be flying. He'd still be hesitating whether to pursue, and Fu Hang's fist would be back. Thinking he was about to be hit, just as the fist reached his chin, his own hand would inexplicably find itself clasping Fu Hang's. It was so bizarre. He didn't dare speak of it. The director even praised him for tapping into his potential and making huge progress. Progress, my foot. Without watching the playback, he didn't even know how he'd fought. If he had to do it again right now, he wouldn't know how. Fu Hang's departure didn't slow down the crew's pace. Instead, it was as if they'd all been injected with adrenaline, pushing themselves even harder. This relentless drive also included the special effects team that had traveled from overseas. Nobody knew what instructions Jack Solomon had given this team, but a full 3 groups had arrived. They truly achieved a state where people rested, but the machines never stopped, working around the clock in shifts. The director in charge of the special effects team also clicked his tongue in amazement. Money really did make the world go round. When had he ever seen these Westerners work so desperately? These people, who usually clamored about freedom, work-life balance, and labor laws, seemed to transform after arriving in China. Everyone was tireless, full of enthusiasm, working harder than beasts of burden. Only the logistics team, specially dispatched by Solomon, meticulously calculated the daily dosage required. These were Jack Solomon's private CIs, secretly cultivated through the intelligence department. Their sole mission, to assist and compel Angela's team to complete this task, no matter the cost. This San Hua Ju Ding, a mix of maximum bonuses, top-tier treatment, and severe penalties, was the formula that instantly turned these free-spirited lions into the hardest-working beasts of burden. After the intense work period, Fu Hang, suddenly idle, didn't feel particularly exhausted. Instead, he felt a lingering desire, as if he hadn't acted to his heart's content. Fortunately, when he left, director Liu mentioned that they would start post-production in a few days and there would be some scenes needing reshoots. Fu Heng didn't dare offer too many opinions on filming. He was, after all, an outsider. These past few days, Ng Yanan had been constantly on set, which is a real headache for Fu Heng. He was genuinely a bit scared of this woman. She was eccentric and utterly unpredictable. That stunt she pulled the other day. Yet his favorability rating with her was still stuck between 45% and 55%. This BUG seemed to be unsolvable. Fu Heng started avoiding her on set. Of course, his method of avoidance was simple. Keep her busy. He began to press for progress on The Crow 4, and Ng Yanan vanished. She didn't have any shortcuts when it came to acting, and the role of the female clown was by no means less complex than her male counterpart. It had many layers. As a newcomer, Ng Yanan had enough on her plate to keep the director busy drilling her for a while. Zhuge Yun arrived on set the next day. Fu Heng had no idea why he came. He merely showed his face before Fu Heng chased him off. "You, lounging around on set, sunning your feet in this cold weather? What kind of behavior is that? This is a serious film set, damn it." The reason for kicking him out was simple. Zhuge Yun had merely asked Fong Tiandai, "Are those MVs finished filming?" Fu Heng finally had a few days without women in his life. But now, with time on his hands, he suddenly realized he hadn't been home in 15 days. For half a month, he had either slept on set or in his car. Thinking of her bright eyes, white teeth, and that pure smile, Fu Heng felt a pang of guilt. 15 days, and he had only made 2 calls, both of which were initiated by Yu Chu, which he'd missed because he was filming, only calling back when he was between locations. They hadn't talked much, just exchanged greetings, with Yu Chu reminding him to take care of his health. Sitting in the back seat of the car, Fu Heng's expression was somber. Had he been too busy filming and neglected her? Fu Heng stared out the window. In his heart, he already knew the answer. Shen Qingluan hadn't made an appearance lately. She'd sent him a greeting message over 10 days ago, to which he'd replied he was busy filming. After that, nothing. Fu Heng subconsciously opened his social media feed. In the past half-month, Shen Qingluan had only posted twice. One was a picture of her sitting in a newly bought luxury car, the photo encompassing the steering wheel, the car's logo, her long legs, and the quiet street scene ahead. The caption read, "I'm in the car, but I don't know where to drive." The other was a group photo taken at a coffee shop, featuring her and Lana. It was only when Fu Heng saw this photo that a slight realization dawned on him. He'd always considered Lana the epitome of beauty, and his inability to control his baser instincts was, he thought, solely due to that. But analyzing the photo calmly, he discovered that in terms of sheer looks, Shen Qingluan was actually not inferior to Lana. Then why did Lana give him such a potent feeling? Was it purely because she was so untamed? Fu Heng's thoughts were successfully sidetracked. He tilted his head, recalling that wild, domineering mane of blonde hair. She hadn't appeared for a long time either. It had been a while since he'd last reined her in. Then, Fu Heng was shocked to discover another problem. The top lady on his patron's list. This benefactor, who had supposedly gone abroad, had truly vanished. He'd called and sent messages, all of which disappeared without a trace. Previously, when domestic travel was easy, she would at least reply. This time, she didn't even bother. If it weren't for the daily 67% favorability rating report, he'd suspect that woman had gone and gotten married again. He scrolled through Li Weiyang's feed, noticing it hadn't been updated in a long time. Unwilling to give up, he sent Li Weiyang a message. "You there?" Staring at his phone for a long while, he saw no reply. Fu Heng sighed in frustration. Phase 2 felt eons away. When would this ever end? He hoped Ng Yanan could successfully win Best Actress, allowing him to draw the Grandmaster skill he so desperately coveted to alleviate his current pressing needs. Fu Heng put away his phone, startled to realize the car had already stopped downstairs at a residential complex. Yu Chu's Spring Breeze Gardens, no less. He glanced suspiciously at the big bald head driving in front. The bald man sat with steadfast composure, eyes fixed ahead, like an emotionless, autonomous driving system. He truly lived up to the long, out-yin archetype. "You've been tired these past few days. Head back and get some rest," Fu Heng said, patting Baldy Long's shoulder as he pushed open the car door. Baldy Long showed no reaction, still like an AI, started the car, and drove slowly forward. In truth, they had been there for a while. The boss hadn't said where to go, and Baldy Long figured that since the boss hadn't been near any women for so many days, he was probably heading to Miss Yu Chu's place. After parking in a spot within the complex, seeing the boss staring at his phone in deep thought, he hadn't dared to disturb him and had waited quietly. And then he saw someone in the rearview mirror. He became even more silent. Shen Qingluan had been staying here recently. For her apartment at Yinshu Riverside, she had set up a real-time camera feed facing the French windows. Every night, she would turn it on to see if the lights on the top floor of the opposite building were on. The rest of the time, after work, she would sit on the balcony of apartment 606, building 12, Spring Breeze Gardens, quietly gazing at the unluxurious but cozy residential complex below. She didn't know what she was looking at, nor was she sure if she was waiting for something. It was just a subconscious feeling that sitting and looking like this was very comfortable. The small supermarket did good business. The lady owner was very enthusiastic, though she often argued with her son. Her son, though, was a bit of a deadbeat. Decently handsome, but he just lazed around at home, sponging off his mother, the two of them minding this small convenience store for the complex. The mahjong room downstairs wasn't large. She glanced in once while taking out the trash. It was just a converted ground floor storage room, with 2 mahjong tables inside. Yet, every time she passed, there was always a table of people, young, middle-aged, and elderly. Seeing them, Shen Qingluan always thought of Fu Hang. Back then, in her eyes, he too was a good-for-nothing, without a proper job, yet he exuded a profound desire for life. A game booster, pulling all-nighters for orders, just to buy her a pair of shoes. For one of her carefully orchestrated smiles, he had taken out all his savings to buy her a watch. Back then, almost every day she went to work, the first thing she saw was always that smiling face in a yellow vest, illuminated by the morning glow. If only all of that had been real. Shen Qingluan wasn't sure if these thoughts were genuine. Which Fu Hang did she like more? After I fell in love with the good-for-nothing you became the man of my dreams. Quite laughable, truly absurd. Today, as usual, she was holding a thermos, sitting on the balcony, enjoying a moment of tranquility. The convenience store owner seemed to be arguing with her son again, grumbling as she headed into the mahjong room. Then, she saw the car, the same luxury car that had delivered takeout to her early one morning. Shen Qingluan's eyes lit up. For over 10 days, her vigil, like a wife of legend turned to stone waiting for her husband's return, had finally borne fruit. She saw the car stop, but no one got out. A thought struck her. She quickly put down her cup and went inside. Standing before the full-length mirror by the door, she examined herself carefully. She was glad for the habit she developed these past few days, not removing her makeup or changing her clothes until just before bed. She grabbed the coat hanging by the door, put on her shoes, but then hesitated slightly and hung the coat back up. Just like that, wearing a high-necked wool sweater, she pressed the elevator button. Fu Hang pushed the car door open and was immediately greeted by the sight of long legs clad in straight-cut trousers. Because these legs were standing right beside the car, he froze for a moment, his gaze slowly traveling upwards. Qingluan. A flash of astonishment crossed Fu Hang's eyes. Shen Qingluan simply tilted her head, smiling quietly at Fu Hang, her arms crossed over her chest, appearing desolate yet hauntingly beautiful in the night wind. "Why aren't you wearing a coat?" Fu Hang snapped back to reality in an instant. He turned to glare at Baldy Long, who was almost at the building's entrance, making him grind his teeth in frustration. Was this how a bodyguard was supposed to act? No wonder he hadn't said a word when asked. Damn it, if she'd been an assassin, I'd be full of holes by now. Fu Hang cursed inwardly, but his hands moved without hesitation, shrugging off his own coat and draping it over Shen Qingluan. Just as he raised his hand, his gaze discreetly swept over the 9th floor. Thank goodness, the lights were off. The coat settled onto Shen Qingluan's shoulders. The slight brush of their fingers, however, made Fu Hang frown again. Shen Qingluan's body was very cold. She had been standing here for quite a while. Fu Hang didn't know how long Baldy Long had waited for him, but Shen Qingluan's body temperature told him she had definitely been standing in the night wind for a significant amount of time. "Can you walk with me?" With the coat on her shoulders, warmth flowed into Shen Qingluan's eyes. She subconsciously snuggled her neck deeper into the collar, trying to savor the residual warmth of the garment. Of course. Fu Hang barely hesitated. He didn't ask why she was there. The immediate priority was to move. Shen Qingluan's eyebrows arched in delight, as if after waiting so long in the night wind, receiving the affirmation, "Walk with me," was the greatest of honors. A flicker of suspicion crossed Fu Hang's mind. The moment Shen Qingluan turned, His gaze quickly swept across the parking lot. Then, in the distance, he saw the luxury car that had appeared in Shen Qingluan's social media feed. Was she deliberately waiting for him here? What was she up to? Feeling a pang of unease, Fu Heng glanced again at the pitch-black ninth floor and quietly followed Shen Qingluan. Shen Qingluan's pace was slow, her hand still clasped in front of her, pulling her oversized coat tighter. But her smile was so sweet, like a night blooming cereus. Fu Heng followed quietly. After a few steps, it dawned on him. Shen Qingluan was waiting for him, hence her deliberately slow pace. He immediately quickened his steps to walk shoulder to shoulder with her. However, Shen Qingluan's speed remained unhurried, like a couple taking a leisurely stroll after dinner. Though they weren't holding hands or embracing, they shared the tranquility of the night. Fu Heng looked straight ahead, hands in his pockets, but his peripheral vision constantly scanned the residential complex. Damn it, there were a lot of people watching. He even saw, in the parking lot on the other side, a minivan with steam rising from its hood. When did so many people show up in this complex? Don't tell me a celebrity moved in? The two of them slowly walked out of the complex. Fu Heng didn't know where Shen Qingluan was going, nor could he guess what she wanted to talk to him about. But the feeling emanating from Shen Qingluan was both familiar and strangely alien. The smile was familiar, like an endless expanse of camellias, but beneath that smile, her eyes held a faint trace of the aura usually hidden by her bangs. Why did he see a shadow of Qin Yuchu in Shen Qingluan's eyes? Right, it was so late, why wasn't Qin Yuchu home? Asleep? No. Even if she were asleep, she would leave a night light on. Especially when he wasn't home, she always turned on the entryway light. Lost in thought, Fu Heng followed Shen Qingluan at an unhurried pace along the street. Inside the minivan he had just been watching, the driver looked suspiciously at Zhuge Yun in the back. Don't open the door, wait. Zhuge Yun covered her mouth, as if afraid of being too loud and alerting those outside. They should be far away by now. The driver couldn't help but remind her. Zhuge Yun looked up, confirmed from a distance that there was indeed no one at the complex entrance, tightened the mask on her face and the hat on her head, and stealthily, like a thief, pushed open the car door. And just as she opened the door, the kitchen light in apartment 909, building 12, switched on. Qin Yuchu, with a calm expression, moved away from the curtained floor-to-ceiling window, gently took out 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks from a kitchen cabinet, and silently sat down at the dining table. On the table were 4 dishes and a soup, already slightly cool. The soup was yam and pork rib, Fu Heng's favorite. She served herself half a small bowl of rice and ate quietly, looking down at the empty seat opposite her. Ah, the enemy is at the gates. Biting into a piece of pork rib, Yochu's eyes glinted with a strange light. She ate meticulously, but not slowly at all. Soon, she put down her bowl and chopsticks and began to clear up. She threw all the leftovers into the trash can and soaked the rice cooker pot in cold water. Then, she changed her clothes and went downstairs carrying the garbage bag. Fu Heng and Shen Qingluan walked quite a distance together. What he hadn't expected was that when Shen Qingluan said, "Let's take a walk," she meant just that, a walk. Half an hour had passed, and Shen Qingluan hadn't uttered a single word, just walked silently. Only, every now and then, she would slightly turn her head to glance at Fu Heng. If Fu Heng looked at her at that moment, she would reveal a smile tinged with secret delight. This smile was captivating. Her charming, almond-shaped eyes seemed to have their own special effects. Each time they curved, they would leave one dazed and enchanted. Fu Heng wasn't dazed and enchanted. Fu Heng was terrified. Every smile made Fu Heng feel an approaching sense of crisis. What was Shen Qingluan's progress bar at yesterday? 72% or 73%? Damn it, why did she feel even more oppressive than the top-ranking big sis on the charts? Damn it all, with that smile, why do I feel like you're about to take me to get a room? Putting other things aside, just those few glances earlier, Fu Heng felt they were even more devastating than when Shen Qingluan had been in his arms at the milk tea shop entrance, looked up, and said, "Let's get married." Qingluan has leveled up again, huh? Fu Heng suddenly had a strange feeling. Had he truly grown weary? Wasn't I supposed to become a best actor? Yes, I am a best actor, acting for the awakening of the Celestial Dynasty. I am a best actor. Why aren't you talking? A smile appeared on Fu Heng's face, replacing the unintentional solemnity in his brow. I don't dare to. Shen Qingluan didn't turn around, her head lowered as she intently studied the tactile paving on the ground. What do you want to say? Fu Heng was wary, but his voice grew deeper. I don't want to say anything. This is nice as it is. I'm afraid that no matter what I say, I'll ruin this fragile connection we have. Shen Qingluan suddenly stopped, turned nimbly, and looked at Fu Hang with a playful expression. How would it be ruined? Fu Hang smiled, instinctively raising his hand, bending down, and zipping up her coat for her. This is enough. Just having you walk with me when it's dark, that's enough. Shen Qingluan looked at Fu Hang with gratification, a mist surprisingly welling up in her eyes. Fu Hang suddenly didn't know how to respond to that. Shen Qingluan's line was a perfect blend of offense and defense. She retreated out of his attack range, yet raised her gun and landed a soul-piercing shot on him. So, should I defend or attack? Fu Hang felt he had truly regressed. Acknowledge it? Create distance between us? It's only 73%. Deny it? Get closer? What if she unleashes her ultimate move? When you say that, it makes me uncomfortable. Fu Hang grasped the sleeves of her coat. Shen Qingluan cooperatively allowed her hands to be held through them. Naturally, her hands ended up in Fu Hang's grasp. Although it was through the long sleeves, Fu Hang could still feel how cold her small hands were. That's why I didn't dare say anything. Now, anything I say feels wrong. Shen Qingluan's almond eyes narrowed again into crescents. Under the refraction of the streetlight, her shimmering eyes appeared even more moist and captivating. Qingluan. Fu Hang could only softly call her name, his grip through the sleeves tightening slightly. Let's go back. You'll get cold. But Shen Qingluan turned her head away, slipped free from Fu Hang's grasp, swung her long sleeves, gave a sweet smile, and turned to walk back the way they came. Fu Hang felt the lingering warmth in his palms, an inexplicable emptiness spreading in his heart. Qingluan's sword had pierced his heart in a single strike. Though it caused no physical damage, it had well and truly broken through his defenses. On a night nearing New Year's Eve, the street scene lacked any of the usual spring festival liveliness. The streetlights cast a dim yellow glow, making the ground seem warm, yet also exuded a touch of cold desolation. The trees lining the street had long since shed their leaves, their bare branches stretching wantonly into the night sky, like a minimalist ink wash painting. Their pace remained unhurried, but Fu Hang couldn't shake the feeling that the way back was longer than the way there. The night breeze was cool, gently brushing against their cheeks, bringing a hint of chill. A grandmaster wouldn't fear severe cold, yet this wind made him unusually clear-headed. He still occasionally glanced sideways at the woman beside him, bundled in her loose coat, but her head remained bowed, no longer showing that heart-stirring smile. Strands of her messy hair were occasionally lifted by the night wind, tugging at Fu Hang's bewildered heart. Fu Hang's thoughts were in turmoil again. He recalled the smile Shen Qingluan had given him just moments ago. It was the same familiar smile she'd worn when she hinted his birthday was approaching. That time, Fu Hang had bought a watch worth 150,000. But today, she hadn't asked for anything. She had said, "This is enough." Fu Hang understood the game. Saying she didn't want anything meant she wanted even more. Shen Qingluan hadn't just improved. She had changed her tactics. And in this confrontation, Fu Hang had lost ground. Shen Qingluan had found something he had hidden. A plastic bag, discarded by the roadside, was lifted by the wind, twirling in the air before slowly settling back on the ground with a faint rustle. Walking down the street, taking in his surroundings, his heart should have been calm. Yet, Fu Hang's heart was like that twirling plastic bag, swept up by the wind, unsure of where it was headed. Shen Qingluan was different. She was different from all his other clients. He had once considered detaching himself from all his clients by slacking off, but he couldn't do that with Shen Qingluan. The reawakening of his humanity brought back memories from 3 years ago. Feelings that should have been forgotten were slowly resurfacing. But his confusion wasn't about how much he had given to Shen Qingluan, but how much he had received from her. His bond with Shen Qingluan was too deep, intertwined with the system, rewards, youth, and desire. Fu Hang suddenly missed the days when he didn't see himself as human, nor his clients as human. But he couldn't find that kind of detachment anymore. They walked back to the residential complex without exchanging a single word. The tranquility of the winter night reflected on their faces, making them look like a couple returning from stroll. As they entered the complex, Fu Hang subtly glanced up at the 9th floor. It was still dark. Qin Yuchu wasn't back yet? Qingluan, you. Reaching the parking lot, Fu Hang was stunned to see Shen Qingluan, still with her head down, showing no intention of getting into the car. Instead, she continued walking towards the entrance of Building 12. What's wrong? Shen Qingluan looked up, her gentle expression returning. The car's over there. Fu Hang's voice was very low. Ever since he learned how to sing, He particularly enjoyed using his chest voice to produce a deep, magnetic bass. I know, but I live there. Shen Qingluan suddenly raised an eyebrow, a mischievous smile playing on her lips. A look of bewilderment crossed Fu Hang's face. He followed her gaze in the direction she had just looked. That was where he lived. What are you doing? Didn't you just say a walk was enough? To be honest, the scoundrel had secretly entertained this sordid thought himself. But not here. At Cloud Comfort, no. One, where the bed was bigger. Fu Hang stood there, stunned, a rare trace of panic appearing on his face. But Shen Qingluan paid him no mind and continued walking forward, even quickening her pace slightly. This move truly caught Fu Hang off guard. So this was your ultimate move? Qingluan, listen to me. Fu Hang was genuinely panicking now. Although he didn't know why Qin Yuchu wasn't back so late, Fu Hang knew very well what this apartment meant to Qin Yuchu. You really care about her. Shen Qingluan stopped in front of the elevator, turned around, and looked at Fu Hang seriously. Without me, you're still a princess, the executive director of Hungyu. But if she doesn't have me, without you, she's the young miss of the Qin family. Shen Qingluan suddenly smiled, a smile as radiant as a spring river under the moonlight. The elevator doors opened, and Shen Qingluan stepped inside first. Fu Hang's eyes narrowed, and he grabbed Shen Qingluan's arm. Shen Qingluan turned her head, a flicker of imperceptible pain in her eyes as she looked at Fu Hang, but her smile remained. She said nothing, just looked at him quietly, then raised her hand and pressed the button for the 6th floor. Fu Hang's eyes trembled, his furrowed brows showing his confusion. Shen Qingluan, however, took his hand in a reverse grip and gently pulled him into the elevator. I told you this is enough. Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for you. Shen Qingluan lowered her head again, her voice very, very soft. Fu Hang just stared blankly as the elevator ascended, his thoughts unable to keep up. The elevator doors opened, and Shen Qingluan was the first to step out. Thanks. Want to come in for a drink? Shen Qingluan pressed her finger on the fingerprint lock and turned with a smile. You live here? Fu Hang looked incredulously at the open door. The visible part of the apartment was very tidy and exceptionally cozy. I've never invited you over before. Want to come in? It seems she isn't back yet. Shen Qingluan tightened the loose jacket around her, her smile turning playful. No. Fu Hang's mind raced, trying to find the right words. All right then, say hello to Ani for me. Shen Qingluan didn't insist further, waved her hand, and started walking into the apartment. One hand holding the doorframe, the other fumbling to take off her shoes. Her arms still tucked into the long sleeves made the movement awkward, but because of this, her bent back looked exceptionally alluring. Fu Hang, however, was in no mood to appreciate this pleasing sight. He suddenly realized with a jolt. It wasn't just Qin Yuchu living upstairs. His own mother lived up there too. You're back. Fu Hang, are you staying here tonight? The door of apartment 610 across the hall opened, and a head of wild blonde hair peeked out. Fu Hang's mouth twitched. His composure shattered. Why are you here? Fu Hang was truly numb. I live here, of course, Lana replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Fu Hang whipped his head around to look at Shen Qingluan behind him. Shen Qingluan blinked, looking equally innocent. Or perhaps, you're planning to stay with me? Lana purred, swinging the door wide open. Fu Hang's eyes tightened. His pupils dilated, and his eyelashes practically stood on end. This woman was wearing a sheer, revealing nightie. Fu Hang coughed hard, tilting his head back to look at the ceiling. Damn it, how is this any different from ambushing someone from the bushes with an ultimate attack? I just went off to experience the life of an award-winning actor for barely half a month. What on earth did I miss? How did my home base get raided? So, was this why Qin Yuchu wasn't back so late? Had she moved out? For a moment, Fu Hang's heart clenched. Stop fooling around. Have some decency. Shen Qingluan was also taken aback by Lana's outrageous attire. Even though she had mentally prepared herself, seeing such a blatant display right in front of her still made her uncomfortable. Decency? You talk about decency when you're bringing a man home alone. Lana smirked, her smile full of insinuation. Fu Hang was just escorting me back. He's going upstairs to see Ani. Shen Qingluan explained carefully, her hands clasped. Oh, Lana's eyes darted around, and she too clasped her hands. However, the same gesture, paired with different attire, created a completely different visual effect. You should head up soon. With Lana's interruption, Shen Qingluan lost the mood to say more. Besides, she had decided, after changing her clothes, she would stay in 610 tonight. After all, she also had fingerprint access to 610. If Fu Hang dared to sneak over, she would fight him with all she had. You get some rest too, Fu Hang replied, steeling himself, and quickly stepped into the elevator. Wait a second. Could you take this to Ani for me? And thank her for me. Her dumplings were delicious. Lana quickly pressed the door open button, turned, and brought out a stainless steel basin. Fu Hang stared at the stainless steel basin in his hands, his expression a whirlwind of emotions. Thank for the dumplings, Auntie. He recognized the basin. His mom had a soft spot for this retro-style serving dish. But what the hell? His mom was making dumplings for this foreigner? What on earth had he missed? The elevator doors closed. Fu Hang tugged at his hair, deeply regretting the past half-month he'd spent buried in work on set, neglecting everything else. A man really couldn't just throw himself into his career, even if it was a grand and sacred project. Damn it, I'm out here busting my ass to bring peace to the world, and I turn around to find my crystal under siege? Is there any difference between this and someone setting up a defense tower right in my own base? He didn't go to the 8th floor, pressing the button for the 9th instead. Opening the door to his apartment, his gaze swept quickly around. Yu Chu, as expected, hadn't returned. He instinctively headed to the kitchen, first checking the cookware. It was spotless, as always, with no signs of recent cooking. He glanced at the kitchen trash can. It was empty. Stepping into the bedroom, he found it equally tidy, as if a hotel maid had just cleaned it. Anxiously returning to the living room, Fu Hang reached for his cigarettes, only to realize they were in his jacket, and his jacket. Damn it, she hadn't even returned his clothes after he got home. He reached out and opened the coffee table drawer. Inside, a row of cigarette packs was neatly arranged. Fu Hang stared at the coffee table, slightly dazed. Out of habit, he took an ashtray from the left cabinet and fumbled for a lighter by the armrest. Mechanically, Fu Hang lit a cigarette. He took a drag so deep it felt like he'd used his entire lung capacity. The freshly lit cigarette shortened by nearly half. If it weren't for his freakishly resilient body, smoking like this would probably fast-track him past the latent stage straight to terminal lung cancer after just a few packs. Fu Hang held his breath, not exhaling, letting the rich nicotine flood his lungs. Yet, his chest still felt hollow. Fu Hang exhaled with a sigh of resignation, pulled out his phone, and dialed the number that made him slightly apprehensive. The number you have dialed is switched off. Fu Hang's brow furrowed. His worst fear had materialized. Yu Chu was definitely in some kind of trouble. As for her safety, Fu Hang wasn't too worried. He had stressed it so much to Chen Xiao. If Chen Xiao's arrangement still went awry, it would be utterly unreasonable. Besides Chen Xiao, he had also told Baldy Long to arrange for people to follow her. He glanced at the wall clock. It was already 9 p.m. He had checked Yu Chu's wardrobe. Thankfully, all her clothes were there. Her toothbrush, towels, and other things in the bathroom were also in place. As long as she hadn't moved out, that was good. Fu Hang leaned back on the sofa, exhausted. He stubbed out his cigarette, but immediately lit another. Frowning, he began to speculate about what had happened over the past few days. Why were Shen Qingluan and Lana living downstairs? When did this happen? They had even managed to connect with his mom? Fu Hang's gaze shifted to the stainless steel basin on the coffee table. They must be getting along well with his mom. Otherwise, given her personality, she would never have sent them dumplings, especially not in that stainless steel basin that could practically be a family heirloom. But hadn't his mom already decided on Yu Chu? With her temperament, could she really get along with other girls? Damn it, Fu Hang suddenly realized. His mom had called him many times recently, but he hadn't answered any of them. He was very conscientious. On set, his phone was always with Baldy Long. And Baldy Long had only said that the old madam had called, but didn't mention anything important, just checking in. Damn, seriously, no matter how busy you are with work, you can't just ignore your parents' calls. You should visit home more often. The more Fu Hang thought, the more agitated he became. Shen Qingluan's behavior was increasingly unsettling him. He could analyze the intent behind all of Shen Qingluan's actions. The details were almost identical to the past, and he saw through them at a glance. But when he tried to piece it all together, Fu Hang couldn't understand it anymore. And then there was Lana, this foreign girl, who he found troublesome. If she were just a duo Q partner, Fu Hang wouldn't actually feel much psychological burden. This girl was wild beyond measure. He couldn't even figure out who was taking advantage of whom. His only guilt was because of Yu Chu. Right, Yu Chu? Fu Hang's gaze shifted from the pile of cigarette butts in the ashtray to the wall clock. It was almost midnight. Yu Chu still hadn't returned? He tried calling her again, but her phone was still off. Fu Hang finally started to panic. For Yu Chu, this was highly unusual. Fu Hang got up, went into the bedroom to grab a new jacket, and, As he was heading out, he instinctively glanced into the bathroom. Then, Fu Hang's steps faltered. With a hint of suspicion, he walked into the bathroom and picked up the shower gel and shampoo from the rack. The shower gel was about a third full, the shampoo a fifth. Both are brands Yuchu usually used. He opened the caps and sniffed them. The fresh scent of jasmine was still there, but his brow furrowed unnaturally. A strange memory surfaced, the scent he had caught when he hugged Yuchu in the CEO's office at Yuanbo that day. It was the fragrance of roses. So, they hadn't changed the shower gel at home? Then where did the scent on Yuchu that day come from? A flicker of suspicion crossed Fu Hang's face, and a strange, inexplicable panic began to spread in his heart. It was an absurd feeling, but people are like that. Thoughts have inertia, and there were still those two living on the 6th floor. As if possessed, Fu Hang began to carefully rummage through drawers and cabinets, checking Yuchu's skincare products and cosmetics. He opened them one by one, searching for that remembered scent. However, he was disappointed. Yuchu didn't actually have many cosmetics, and he quickly confirmed that the rose fragrance he remembered wasn't among them. So, where did it come from? Fu Hang opened Yuchu's wardrobe and, like a bloodhound, sniffed forcefully yet cautiously. As he eliminated one wrong answer after another, Fu Hang's heart grew increasingly frantic. Many absurd guesses inexplicably popped into his mind. Was his empress feeling hungry? And sneaking snacks on the side? After checking the washing machine and finding no unwashed clothes, Fu Hang rushed into the elevator. Yuchu's phone was still off. Exiting the apartment building, he first glanced at the small supermarket and saw it was closed. His gaze then shifted to a newly opened mahjong parlor next to it. Without much hesitation, Fu Hang pushed open the door and went in. Inside, there was only one table of customers, the supermarket owner, plus 2 men and a woman. When Fu Hang pushed the door, only a middle-aged woman looked up at him. But because of that one look, the words Fu Hang wanted to say got stuck in his throat. This woman was just an ordinary resident. Looking for someone? The supermarket owner asked, noticing Fu Hang standing there with a grim expression. Just wanted to ask you about something, Fu Hang said, relaxing his tone. What is it? Pung. 7 bamboo. The owner glanced at Fu Hang. Fu Hang let out a breath, said nothing, and backed out of the mahjong parlor. He stood in the middle of the residential complex, his eyes scanning the surroundings inch by inch. 2, 3, 4. He spotted 6 groups of people. Yuchu's safety should be fine. Without further hesitation, Fu Hang walked towards the complex's security booth. The security guard inside the duty office seemed to know Fu Hang was coming and had already stepped out to the entrance. Hello. The security guard smiled politely. Where's Qin Yuchu? Fu Hang cut to the chase. Sorry, we don't have specific information about residents, the guard replied, his answer airtight. Stop playing dumb. You know what I'm asking, Fu Hang said, clearly impatient. He suddenly thought, if Yuchu had really done something, with so many people watching, wouldn't he? Sorry, sir. Give me the earpiece. Fu Hang raised his hand, cutting off the guard's perfunctory response. The guard was visibly startled and looked extremely reluctant, but after a moment, his expression relaxed. He took off his earpiece and handed it to Fu Hang. Mr. Fu, we're only responsible for protecting you and your family's safety. We're not your privately hired bodyguards. We also have our own work regulations. Please don't make things difficult for us. Fu Hang put on the earpiece and immediately heard a low, serious voice. Fu Hang stood there frowning for a long time, then silently took off the earpiece and returned it to the guard. The other person's words left him unable to argue. To continue pestering them would just make him seem unreasonable. Their response at least confirmed that Yuchu was safe. So, where on earth did you go? Fu Hang sat down on a bench in the complex and directly dialed Guangdo Long's number. Boss. Guangdo Long sounded surprised that Fu Hang was calling him at this hour. Shouldn't this be the time Boss was out there, dominating the scene? Where are the men you sent to follow Yuchu? Fu Hang's voice sounded calm. One moment, I'll get back to you right away. Guangdo Long hung up. Fu Hang tapped his foot incessantly on the ground, his mounting agitation feeling increasingly boundless and unresolvable. Yuchu was very smart. If she had really done something, there wouldn't be any trace at home. Yuchu was very smart. Since she had already alerted him with the scent of shower gel on him, how could she make the same mistake? She knew he was going to the company that day. Fu Hang's mind was a mess, his own transgressions and suspicions about Yuchu swirling in his head. He didn't realize that the source of this mistrust stemmed entirely from his own sordid actions. People are like that. With a compassionate heart, one sees goodness everywhere. With a dark heart, one sees filth in everything. When you're covered in your own crap, The slightest smudge on someone else can send you spiraling into paranoia, fueled by ingrained assumptions and guilt. Fu Hang kept checking the time. Guantou Long hadn't called back yet. Just as he was about to lose patience and call again to urge him, he heard the roar of a motorcycle engine. He stood up and saw Guantou's massive bald head. "What are you doing here?" Fu Hang was momentarily stunned. Guantou was still in his house clothes, a padded cotton jacket, and even slippers. "I was nearby. Figured the boss might have orders, so I came straight over." Guantou Long got off the bike, but subtly glanced at the ninth-floor balcony. Fu Hang's gaze sharpened. Guantou's small movement didn't escape his notice. "Where are they?" "They escorted sister-in-law home from work today. After seeing her go inside, they left," Guantou Long answered honestly. This was Fu Hang's instruction. They didn't need to follow her within this complex. "You two came back? What time?" "Around 6. When we arrived, it was 7:05. Guantou Long reminded him quietly. Fu Hang's frown deepened. He had specifically checked back then. The lights upstairs were off. "So, you two came home and left immediately? Or was it just to shake off the men Guantou Long had assigned?" "Sister-in-law is missing?" Guantou Long asked tentatively, seeing Fu Hang's dark expression. "Has she been acting strangely lately?" Fu Hang hesitated for a long time, then gritted his teeth and finally asked the embarrassing question. "I just asked. Nothing unusual, same as always. It's just, she's been frequenting a place recently." Guantou Long's voice suddenly became hesitant. Fu Hang didn't speak, but his whole demeanor changed, his sharp gaze fixed on Guantou Long. "A women's wellness center," Guantou Long blurted out, shivering. The boss's glare was terrifying. "When did this start?" Fu Hang didn't ask why he hadn't been told sooner. It was perfectly normal for a young woman to go to a women's wellness center for a facial mask or treatment. If his men reported such things, it wouldn't be protection, it would be stalking. About 20-something days ago, Guantou Long lowered his head, not daring to meet Fu Hang's eyes. He had only asked his underlings after Fu Hang's call. He had originally intended to bring them along, but after hearing what they said, he hesitated. That was Guantou Long for you. Anyone else wouldn't have been so perceptive. Just from Fu Hang's. "Where are they?" He had sensed something was wrong and had preemptively asked his men for all the details. A man who could be called a long-out yin was truly in a class of his own. "What is she doing there?" Fu Hang asked a very stupid question. That they wouldn't know. Men aren't allowed in that club. Guantou carefully controlled his tone, keeping his voice devoid of emotion. He guessed what Fu Hang was asking, but at times like this, he had to act strictly by the book. Courtiers don't discuss the inner palace affairs. That's an ironclad rule. Although among all the consorts, he liked and respected Empress Qin the most. He hadn't personally witnessed the scene of her smashing a wine bottle on someone's head, but he had clearly seen the miserable state of that young Master Qin afterward. He himself was 100% convinced that Empress Qin would never do anything to harm His Majesty. "Do you know where it is?" "Yes." "Lead the way." Fu Hang said no more and straddled the large displacement motorcycle. The motorcycle roared out of the complex. 3 people suddenly rushed out of the quiet mahjong room. "Hey, where are you going?" "There are still 2 rounds left," shouted the only middle-aged woman still sitting at the mahjong table. Dereliction of duty, one major demerit recorded. The supermarket proprietress stopped in her tracks, one hand on her earpiece, her face falling. The 2 men beside her also turned back with chagrined expressions and sat down at the mahjong table again. But the proprietress's mind was completely off mahjong. She was frequently sending messages on her phone, which only drew another rebuke from the earpiece. "If you poke your nose into unrelated matters again, I'll transfer you to guard the reservoir." The supermarket proprietress fell silent, but the flames of gossip burned brightly in her eyes. Speeding all the way, Fu Hang, with Guantou riding pillion, stopped at a beauty center. Rodman Body Sculpting, Beauty, and Wellness Care Center. Looking at the eye-catching sign and luxurious facade, Fu Hang's frown deepened further. "Here." Fu Hang took off his helmet and slowly walked forward. "Boss." Guantou Long took the helmet Fu Hang handed him and called out subconsciously. This single word was actually laden with many emotions, sounding quite complex. Fu Hang paid him no mind and walked up the steps without looking back. After parking, he had looked up and seen many curtain windows lit up on the upper floors. Beauty and wellness? It was almost 1 a.m. What legitimate beauty parlor would still be open? As soon as he felt the murderous intent radiating off Fu Hang, Baldy hesitated. Should he follow or not? Technically, it was his duty. He had no excuse to shirk it. But part of him worried that if he went and saw something he shouldn't, things might get Awkward. Sure, he trusted the boss. Fu Heng wasn't the type to silence someone just to keep secrets. Still, the tension made Baldy anxiously rub the dry, flaky skin on his scalp, his eyes darting around helplessly. Then suddenly, his gaze locked on his something. Boss! Baldy called out again, uncertainly. This time, Fu Heng responded, not with words but with a pointed gesture from afar. He didn't turn around, just slowly raised a single, icy finger. The silent warning in that gesture hit like a blade to the throat. Baldy felt an invisible sword slash through the air, choking off whatever he was about to say. Nervously, he resumed rubbing his scalp with even more force. Come on, boss. Just turn around and take a look. Fu Heng climbed the steps, but before he could enter, a front desk girl stopped him. It was 1 A.M., yet she was still dressed to the nines. Sorry, sir. Men aren't allowed inside, she said politely, her voice soft and pleasant. I'm looking for someone. Fu Heng's tone was far from friendly. I understand, sir. Are you looking for an employee? We're closed right now, but if she's on shift, she should be out soon, she replied, still all courtesy. I'll give you 100,000. Just take me in. Scan code. Fu Heng looked her in the eyes, phone already in hand. Sir, maybe if you tell me who you're looking for, I can help contact her. The offer tempted her, but some shred of professionalism held her back. She wasn't lying. This was a women-only facility. They didn't serve male customers. Even after hours, there were female clients still inside enjoying services like saunas, hot springs, and baths. Letting a man in could lead to serious trouble. Getting fired would be the least of it. 200,000. Fu Heng stared at her, voice cold. He could force his way in. She couldn't stop him. But if she raised the alarm, the target might get spooked and vanish. In a place this big, even with a full day, it'd be impossible to search every corner. And he wasn't about to order Baldy to bring men in and surround the building. That was sloppy. The best option was to have this front desk girl lead him in quietly. The receptionist froze. What the hell was going on? Was this guy really testing her moral boundaries? She didn't have many to begin with. 300,000. Fu Heng said calmly, pulling up the payment QR code on his screen. Sir, this is... The receptionist looked more conflicted than ever. The more serious he looked, the more afraid she became to go against the rules. Boss! Baldy shouted from behind. Fu Heng nearly facepalmed. What the hell are you yelling for? This was the moment you, the big, intimidating bodyguard, were supposed to loom behind me and apply some pressure. Where's that ruthless energy you had when we rescued Shen Qingluan? You were leading the charge like a beast back then. What, you put on a suit and forget how to be a thug? Fu Heng turned around in frustration, only to see Baldy standing under the neon lights, winking and making exaggerated gestures, poking at his own chest like crazy. Fu Heng squinted, confused. Was he signaling to look behind him? Because of a giant advertisement board, Fu Heng couldn't see across the street clearly. He bent down slightly, then more, until he was practically squatting. That's when he saw her. There, leaning lazily against the convenience store doorway across the road, holding a cup of spicy skewers, was Qin Yuchu. Their eyes locked across the street. Hers teasing, his frozen. Why are you out here? Qin Yuchu tilted her head, twirling a fishball on a skewer, her gaze playful and mocking. She was wearing a cropped puffer jacket and tight jeans, the neon lights casting a youthful, vibrant glow around her. Fu Heng's expression stiffened. He tugged at the corner of his mouth awkwardly and quickly jogged across the road. As soon as he turned, the receptionist let out a long sigh of relief, but immediately felt a pang of deep regret. 300 grand. If I just held out a little longer, maybe I could have had it. Would the boss reward me for sticking to the rules so well? What were you planning to do, going into a place like that so late at night? Qin Yuchu asked before he could even speak, still toying with her fishball skewer. Fu Heng was momentarily speechless. He glanced back at Baldy, only to see him already climbing into a taxi and heading off. Came to pick me up? Qin Yuchu popped the fishball into his mouth and slipped into his arms like it was the most natural thing in the world. The night was cold. Her cheeks were flushed pink from the wind. Fu Heng mumbled, chewing the fishball, then suddenly sniffed hard. No weird perfume. No strange scent. Just the strong smell of spicy hot pot. But it wasn't coming from her breath or the food in her hand. It was more like she just walked out of a hot pot restaurant. Suspicious. Fu Heng glanced at the convenience store behind her. These 24-hour spots often sold ready-to-eat spicy skewers. His eyes landed on the packaging in her hand. Yep, same kind. How did you know I was here? He asked. Qin Yuchu looked up with a faint smile in her eyes. Baldy told me. Those two underlings of his. She raised an eyebrow. Why's your phone off? Battery died? She said, surprised. She pulled it out to check. When she pressed the power button, the screen flashed once before showing the low battery, warning, and shutting off. Let's go home, Fu Hang said, swallowing the last of the fishball. He took her hand and led her toward the motorcycle. He hadn't asked her anything. Not why she was there, not what she'd been doing. From the moment he saw her, all his questions melted away. Her smile was still sweet, her eyes still clear. That mischievous glint when she tilted her head and poked the fishball, it all spoke volumes, yet nothing at all. That night, Fu Hang gave it his all. 2 rounds, 1 win, 1 draw. The first round was a draw. 2 grandmasters locked in a stalemate, neither gaining the upper hand. But in the second round, after he pulled his signature move, thanks for playing, Master Qin surrendered in total defeat, running for cover with no fight left in her. But Fu Hang knew she'd let him win. That knowledge made victory taste hollow. Chapter 21. The next morning, Fu Hang did something rare. He slept in. By the time he woke up, Qin Yuchu had already left for work. With the Lunar New Year just around the corner, the company was drowning in end-of-year chaos. Fu Hang stayed in bed, soaking in the faint scent she'd left behind on the pillow. But his brow remained furrowed. Why was Qin Yuchu at that place last night? Why hadn't she come home earlier? And for the past few weeks, why had she been going there so often? Doubt lingered in Fu Hang's heart like a thorn. Once planted, suspicion grows like a demon, dragging a person into a bottomless abyss. He knew how easily he'd lost himself in the temptations brought by the system's endless rewards. Would Yuchu be any different? After gaining financial freedom and learning about all the women in his past, could she truly remain faithful to her heart?